Chapter 1164. How dare you? How dare you? You're courting death. Let me kill him. Let me cripple him. I'll let him taste the most painful punishment in the world. The members of the Imperial Xia family shouted angrily, releasing cold killing intent. Boom! A shocking aura erupted from Xia Nianjuan's body. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent, and a powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. She said in a cold voice, "Lu Ming, saving your life back then was the biggest mistake I've ever made. But it doesn't matter. It's the same if I kill you today. You think you can kill me? That might not be enough." Lu Ming smiled contemptuously. Xia Nianjuan's cultivation was very strong. She was at the peak of the third-level spirit god realm. Her aura was powerful, and her body contained terrifying energy. Lu Ming felt that she was even stronger than the underworld child. If Lu Ming fought her during the 1,000,000-year sacrificial ceremony, he was not confident that he could win. But now, he did not take Xia Nianjuan seriously. Lu Ming, don't think that you're the strongest in the world just because you defeated the underworld child. If I had fought back then, I would have been able to suppress you. Xia Nianjuan took another step forward. Her aura was strong, and a milky white light bloomed from her body. It made Xia Nianjuan look even more holy and noble. Is Xia Nianjuan going to fight Lu Ming? Many people were looking forward to it. During the 1,000,000-year sacrificial ceremony, Lu Ming had defeated many giant-level geniuses in a row, showing that he was invincible. In the end, when he faced Long Chen, Lu Ming directly admitted defeat. Many people felt that it was a pity that they did not see who was the strongest. And Xia Nianjuan did not participate in that battle. This made many people secretly talk about Xia Nianqing and Lu Ming, guessing who was stronger. After all, Xia Nianqing was ranked second among the 5 giants of the central continent, second only to Long Chen. It was hard to say who was stronger without fighting. Now, was it finally time for a battle? At this time, Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he waved his hand. A ray of light flashed and Xia Nianqing appeared beside Lu Ming. Just now, Xia Nianqing had sent a message to Lu Ming through Dandan, saying that he wanted to come out. Lu Ming then let Xia Nianqing come out. As soon as Xia Nianqing came out, he attracted everyone's attention. Almost everyone in the holy city was looking at Xia Nianqing, and then at Xia Nianjuan. Their eyes were filled with shock because the two of them were too similar. This woman, why does she look so similar to Xia Nianjuan? Both of them are devastatingly beautiful. Who is she? I know. It is said that the current holy king has 3 princesses, all of whom are devastatingly beautiful. Among them, Princess 16 has been hidden by the royal family because of her bloodline. This woman should be Princess 16. She should be. The 3 princesses of the current holy king are indeed devastatingly beautiful. This Princess 16 is not inferior to the 5 beauties at all. I wonder how talented she is in martial arts. There was a burst of discussion around them. Many people had heard of Princess 16's name, but only a few had seen her in person. Naturally, they were surprised at this time. You really left the demon realm with him? Surrender now and go back to the demon realm. Stay in the demon realm for the rest of your life and kill the demon temple clan. Don't even think about walking around outside. You're a disgrace to the royal family. Xia Nianjuan looked coldly at Xia Nianqing. Xia Nianqing's face was cold. She looked at Xia Nianjuan and said, "Xia Nianjuan, you don't have to put on a high and mighty face. Since you were young, you have been doted on by everyone. Is it because of your holy bloodline? What a joke. Today, I will trample you under my feet and let the world see how vulnerable your so-called holy and orthodox bloodline is." As Xia Nianqing's voice was heard, endless demon qi shot up from her body. Her powerful aura was opposing Xia Nianjuan's. "Since you want to fight with me, I will grant your wish," Xia Nianjuan said coldly. A milky white holy light beam shot up to the sky from her body. At the same time, a black demon chi shot up from Xia Nianqing's body. One black and one white, the two light beams collided fiercely in the sky. Boom! The clouds in the sky were scattered and strong winds swept across. Let's fight! Xia Nianqing said and flew up to the sky. Xia Nianjuan's eyes were cold. She also flew up to the sky. One black and one white, the two light beams collided and tore the space into pieces. Sky Demon Force Field. 9 Heavens Sacred Domain. Two delicate shouts sounded. The two of them used their ultimate skills and fought in the sky. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than a dozen blows. Xia Nianqing and Xia Nianjuan's attacks were very similar. However, one was of the demon Dao and the other was of the holy Dao. Black lotuses appeared around Xia Nianqing's body. They turned into lotus swords and shot out horizontally. On the other hand, milky white lotuses appeared around Xia Nianjuan's body. They also turned into rays of sword light and fought Xia Nianqing. Sword chi shot up to the sky. For a moment, the two of them were locked in a fierce battle. The spectators in the holy city gasped. They were extremely shocked. So strong. The 16th princess is so strong. She can actually fight the 9th princess. Terrifying. It turns out that the 16th princess who has been hidden away is also a peerless talent. She's too strong. She's definitely a giant-level genius. This generation of the royal family is really full of talents. It's rare to have two giants in one family. I don't understand. Why would the royal Xia family want to suppress such a peerless genius? I really don't understand. If other forces had such a genius, they would do their best to nurture her. In the future, she'll be a peerless emperor. Discussions could be heard everywhere, especially when they reached the ears of the imperial Xia clan. It was especially ear-piercing. What's the use of having such a high talent? He should be suppressed forever. Otherwise, he'll be a traitor. Xia Zhen snorted and gritted his teeth. However, there was a trace of fear in his eyes. Xia Nianqing's talent was too high. The higher the talent, the more afraid he was and the more he wanted Xia Nianqing to die. Xia Zhen's gaze fell on Lu Ming again. It's all because of Lu Ming. I don't know what method he used to rescue Xia Nianqing from the 9 underworlds. Lu Ming, I advise you to surrender. You can't escape today. Surrender and I'll give you a quick death. Xia Zhen said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. All right, make your move. If you can take one move from me, I'll surrender. Lu Ming said contemptuously. You, don't be arrogant. Xia Zhen rebuked. Lu Ming, there's no need for the 8th prince to take you down. I'll kill you. A middle-aged man stepped out. His aura was strong and his eyes were cold. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this was a 7th-level spirit god expert. All right, Venerable Su, capture Lu Ming for this prince and you'll be heavily rewarded. Xia Zhen was overjoyed and said. This man was a venerable guardian of the royal family. He was strong and had a 7th-level spirit god cultivation. With him taking action, he could definitely capture Lu Ming. You want to take action? All right, get over here and die. Chapter 1165. Young people are so arrogant. They will die young. Venerable Su's eyes were cold. He took a few steps forward and quickly approached Lu Ming. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. Whoosh! A soft whip appeared in his hands. The soft whip was covered with hooks. Under the sunlight, it flickered coldly. He waved the soft whip and it grew rapidly. In the end, it became more than 10 miles long. Like a venomous snake, it coiled toward Lu Ming. The soft whip cut through the air, making an ear-piercing sound. A hideous crack appeared in the space. In the face of such an attack, Lu Ming's face was calm. His body swayed slightly and dodged the attack. He took a step forward and charged towards Venerable Su. You can't escape. Inescapable net, 10,000 layers of death. Venerable Su shouted. The soft whip was like a real dragon circling in the air. It turned into layers of whip shadows. Like an inescapable net, it wrapped around Lu Ming and sealed off all his escape routes. Why should I escape? Just break it. A calm voice came out. Lu Ming's body was filled with the roar of a dragon. His true yuan boiled as he punched out. Boom! This punch seemed to move the entire space, causing it to explode. A terrifying fist energy rushed towards the whip shadows. Those whip shadows were like broken branches, instantly collapsing, turning into fragments that scattered in all directions. The terrifying force even rushed along the soft whip towards Venerable Su. His face changed drastically. His body trembled and he retreated. Whoosh! A figure flashed and suddenly appeared in front of him. Not good. Venerable Su was shocked. He subconsciously punched out and wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Boom! Lu Ming threw out another punch. It was as fast as lightning. Even though he launched later, it reached Venerable Su's chest first. Supremacy Su let out a cry of despair as his entire body exploded. Even his spirit deity was not spared. The power of devouring erupted and shrouded Venerable Su. His essence, qi, and spirit were all devoured by Lu Ming. Your lackey is dead. You don't want to fight personally. Lu Ming looked at Xie Zhen with disdain. This made Xie Zhen grit his teeth, but in his heart, he was also extremely shocked. A 7th-level spirit god expert was actually killed so easily by Lu Ming. Isn't Lu Ming's combat strength too terrifying? The expressions of the other spectators also changed greatly. Lu Ming's strength has greatly increased since the million-year sacrifice. Such astonishing talent is rarely seen in the world. With his current battle prowess, Xie Nianjuan is clearly no match for him. I wonder how he will fare against Long Chen. I don't know, but it's a pity. No matter how talented Lu Ming is today, the outcome is already decided. Don't forget, this is the holy city. Even a ruler might not be able to leave, let alone Lu Ming. While many people were shocked by Lu Ming's battle prowess and talent, they also felt pity for Lu Ming. This was the holy city. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, the outcome was already decided. It's rare to have such cultivation and battle prowess at your age. This old man admires you. If you swear a blood oath and surrender to my imperial Xie family, this old man will plead with the Saint Emperor to spare your life. How about it? A white-haired elder stepped out of the void and walked toward Lu Ming. He had the demeanor of an immortal. A terrifying aura spread out from his body. It was several times stronger than Venerable Su's. Peak 8th level spirit god. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. The white-haired old man didn't hide his cultivation at all. Lu Ming could see it with a glance. You're just an 8th level spirit god. Are you qualified to ask the Saint Emperor to spare me? You think too highly of yourself. Lu Ming curled his lips casually and said disdainfully. This is at least a chance, isn't it? If you refuse, you won't even have a chance. Being looked down upon by Lu Ming, the white-haired old man's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness as he spoke in a deep voice. Ha, with just you. I'm afraid you're not qualified. Lu Ming smiled with even more disdain. Arrogant. You won't have a chance if this old man attacks. The white-haired old man revealed anger in his eyes. A milky white light suffused out from his body, and his gaze was icy cold. Although Lu Ming easily killed a 7th-level spirit god expert, he was at the peak of the 8th level. His strength was much stronger than a 7th-level spirit god and could easily kill a 7th-level spirit god expert. Therefore, he was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming. Lu Ming was young after all. No matter how strong he was, it wouldn't be too outrageous. Whoosh! A white sword light bloomed from the white-haired old man's hand. It pierced through the boundless sky and charged towards Lu Ming. This sword was sharp, ruthless, stunning, and terrifying. Just this sword was stronger than the 7th-level spirit god realm supremacy suit from before. Dragon roars sounded out from Lu Ming's body. Above his head, the 3rd bloodline appeared. A surge of energy poured into Lu Ming's body, causing Lu Ming's strength to increase explosively once again. Bang! He took a step forward and struck out with his palm. The palm force was shocking. It broke open the sky and formed a terrifying palm blade that chopped down on the old man's white sword light. Clang! A sharp explosion sounded out. The white sword light dissipated, and Lu Ming charged towards the old man. The old man's expression changed slightly. The long sword in his hand stabbed out unceasingly. Streaks of snow-white sword light pierced towards Lu Ming like streaks of resplendent sparkling light. The sword light was dense and seemed endless as it poured towards Lu Ming unceasingly. Boom! 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 Lu Ming clenched his fist and struck out unceasingly. Vaguely, Lu Ming's fist seemed to have turned into a prison-suppressing steel that suppressed everything. Dense explosions sounded out in the sky. The white-haired old man's sword light was constantly collapsing. Lu Ming faced the sword light and charged towards the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's expression changed. It became very ugly and dignified. He shouted loudly and his bloodline appeared. He performed bloodline fusion and turned into a milky white battle sword. The battle sword trembled. More and sharper sword light poured towards Lu Ming. Break! 9 dragons appeared. Lu Ming turned into 9 dragons and charged upwards. He broke through all the sword light. The 9 dragons' claws continuously clawed at the milky white battle sword. The milky white battle sword trembled violently and then directly collapsed, revealing the white-haired old man's true body. At this moment, the white-haired old man was in an incomparably sorry state. He no longer had the sage-like demeanor from before. His hair was disheveled and his clothes were ragged. His white robe was covered in blood. His eyes were filled with terror as he desperately charged towards the city walls. At this moment, countless people in the city gasped when they saw this scene. They were extremely shocked. A peak 8th level spirit god expert had been defeated. He had been heavily injured by Lu Ming and had fled in a sorry state. This was too unbelievable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have dared to believe it. A youth who wasn't even 30 years old could heavily injure a veteran 8th level spirit god expert. Such an example was rarely recorded in the divine desolate continent since ancient times. This had already surpassed common sense. It was too terrifying. Now, many people were doubting whether Long Chen, who was known as the #1 expert in the world, was still a match for Lu Ming. High up in the sky, Xian Yanqing, who was fighting Xian Yanjuan, naturally sensed this scene. Her heart trembled and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Lu Ming's battle strength had already far surpassed hers. Chapter 1166. You're distracted. Xian Yanqing shouted and launched a storm of attacks. For a moment, she actually suppressed Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan quickly gathered his thoughts and fought with Xian Yanqing. Below, Lu Ming transformed into 9 dragons and chased after the white-haired old man. Since you're going to fight, you should be prepared to be killed. Lu Ming's voice came from the 9 dragons' mouths. They stepped out with their dragon claws and their huge bodies were like lightning. They were unbelievably fast and approached the white-haired old man. Save me. Seeing that the 9 dragons were about to catch up, the white-haired old man screamed in horror. He was as panicked as a stray dog. He no longer cared about the demeanor of an expert. At this moment, saving his life was more important. Kill! The 9 dragons shouted and stretched out their claws. A powerful force hit the white-haired old man and almost pierced through his body. He vomited blood and his eyes were filled with fear. "Save me!" The white-haired old man screamed at the top of his lungs like a helpless young girl facing a group of ferocious bandits. "Stop! You're courting death." At this moment, a furious roar came from the city walls of the holy city. A tall figure rushed out and a vast and unfathomable aura burst out. Everyone felt suffocated when they were shrouded by this aura. There was a huge rock pressing down on their hearts and they felt that a disaster was imminent. A sovereign. This word appeared in everyone's mind. It was a sovereign. The sovereign of the imperial family had attacked. Xie Qiyu. Lu Ming recognized at a glance that the person who attacked was Xie Zhen's uncle, the younger brother of the current holy emperor, Xie Qiyu. He was a sovereign. "How dare you act so presumptuously in the holy city? I'll cripple you now." A cold voice came out from Xie Qiyu's mouth. Then, he slapped out and a huge palm print formed in the air. It covered the sky and enveloped Lu Ming. Under this palm print, Lu Ming was as small as an ant. However, Lu Ming's face was still calm and there was no change in his eyes. Because at this moment, waves of extremely powerful energy surged into Lu Ming's body. It was Xiao Wan's energy. So what if he's a supreme being? "Xie Qiyu, you won't be able to save him today." The 9 dragons roared, their dragon claws clawed at Xie Tianyu's palm. "What? He dares to take a supreme being's attack head-on. Courting death, he's courting death." Driven into a corner, he died a heroic death. To be able to die in the hands of a supreme martial artist, his life was not in vain. Many people believed that Lu Ming was at the end of his rope, that he would rather be killed by a supreme being, dying a heroic death. Some people sighed. Could it be that such a rare genius of the divine desolate continent was about to come to an end? However, what happened next left them flabbergasted. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Boom! Boom! The 9 dragons' dragon claws grabbed Xie Qiyu's palm print. Everyone imagined that Xie Qiyu would be directly shattered by the palm print. The scene of him shattering into pieces did not happen. On the contrary, when the dragon claws grabbed him, heaven and earth shook. Xie Qiyu's palm print was actually penetrated by the 9 dragons' dragon claws and collapsed with a loud bang. Everyone was stunned as they watched this scene in disbelief. Not only did Lu Ming block the supreme martial artist's attack, but he also defeated it. How was this possible? What was going on? Most people were completely dumbfounded. Swoosh! After defeating Xie Qiyu's palm print, the 9 dragons clawed out again. A huge dragon claw appeared out of thin air above the white-haired old man's head and clawed down. The white-haired old man had almost escaped to the city wall. He had just heaved a sigh of relief when his eyes suddenly widened. He let out a desperate roar, "No!" Bang! In the next moment, he was crushed by the dragon claw. "I said that since you're going to fight, you'll die." The 9 dragons shrunk and turned into Lu Ming's real body. A cold voice came out of Lu Ming's mouth. Many people gasped, especially Xie Zhen. His whole body was cold and his face was pale. He looked at Lu Ming in horror. An expert at the peak of the 8th level spirit god realm was first seriously injured and fled for his life. However, he was still killed by Lu Ming on the spot with the help of a supreme martial artist. How arrogant, how arrogant, how overbearing. "Bastard, you're courting death." Xie Qiyu roared. His killing intent was extremely cold. It was so dense that it seemed to be about to materialize. A terrifying aura spread out. The earth-shattering pressure of a supreme martial artist spread towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and quickly retreated. Xie Qiyu's pressure couldn't stop him at all. "Kill!" Xie Qiyu shouted and was about to launch a thunderous attack. "Qiyu, stop!" At this moment, a dignified voice sounded. Xie Qitian was slightly stunned when he heard this voice and stopped. The sky suddenly split open, and 3 figures stepped out of the space crack. The person in the lead was slender and burly. He had endless majesty. Saint Emperor. Greetings, Saint Emperor. Many people hurriedly bowed. This person was the Saint Emperor, Xie Qitian. On both sides of Xie Qitian stood 2 white-haired old men. Most people had seen them at the million-year sacrifice. They were also sovereigns. 3 sovereigns came out together. Many people trembled in their hearts. At the same time, they were filled with endless doubts. Did the Saint Emperor need to come out personally for Lu Ming? Moreover, there were 2 other sovereigns. Xie Qitian and the 2 sovereigns came out together, stopping the battle between Xie Nianqing and Xie Nianjuan. I'll spare you today. Xie Nianjuan stared at Xie Nianqing with killing intent in his eyes. We still don't know who will spare who. Xie Nianqing responded strongly. Then, the 2 retreated separately. Xie Nianqing returned to Lu Ming's side, while Xie Nianjuan went to Xie Qitian's side. Xie Qitian looked at Xie Nianqing with a complicated expression. Then, his gaze fell on Lu Ming. With a dignified look in his eyes, he said, "Since you're here, why don't you come out? There's no need to hide." Xie Qitian's words shocked many people. Could it be that Xie Qitian's target was someone else? Demonic energy spread out from Lu Ming's body. In the end, the demonic energy gathered beside Lu Ming and condensed into a figure. It was Xiao Wan. There's really someone here. Some people were moved. They guessed that the reason why Lu Ming could resist the sovereign's attack just now was related to this person. However, some of them were stunned when they saw Xiao Wan. Then, their pupils and mouths widened. In the end, their bodies trembled violently. Impossible, how is this possible? Why does he look so similar? How can this be? These people muttered to themselves in disbelief. In particular, the people from the imperial Xie family, such as Xie Zhen and Xie Qiyu, widened their eyes in horror as if they had seen a ghost. Who is this person? Why do the people from the imperial Xie family look so frightened? Those who had not seen Xiao Wan's portrait or statue were full of doubts. However, they soon found out the answer. Xiao Wan. Chapter 1167. Those 2 words were like thousands of thunderbolts that exploded in everyone's hearts. Many people were so shocked that they almost jumped up. What? Xiao Wan. The chaotic sky divine emperor. How is that possible? Didn't the chaotic sky divine emperor die 30,000 years ago? How is he still alive? Even if he's not dead, he can't have lived for 30,000 years. What's going on? There was an uproar in the sacred city. Everyone was shouting and yelling in disbelief. It was too shocking. Who didn't know Xiao Wan's name from a powerful force? The current situation in the Middle Continent was all because of one person, Xiao Wan. Such a famous figure, who existed only in legends, who had long been thought to be dead, actually appeared alive. If Xie Qitian hadn't said it, no one would have believed it. Ha ha ha, 30,000 years have passed. I didn't expect anyone to remember me. Xiao Wan laughed. His words silenced all the voices at the scene. Everyone's eyes fell on Xiao Wan. This person was really Xiao Wan. How can this be? Xiao Wan has reappeared. Is the world going to fall into chaos again? Many people had the same thought in their minds. There were also some people who thought of even more. They finally knew why the Xie family of the imperial family activated the divine secret instrument to capture Lu Ming and why they took out a heavenly treasure as a reward. It was all because of Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan and Lu Ming were together. Could it be that Xiao Wan was able to reappear because of Lu Ming? Many people couldn't help but think of that. Hiss. At that moment, the space behind Xiao Wan and Lu Ming split open. 2 figures stepped out of it. As soon as the two of them came out, they exuded a domineering aura. It was the aura of an emperor. It's the Wuju's Sword Emperor and the Lightning Saber Emperor. Someone recognized the two of them and exclaimed in surprise. The others were shocked. They didn't expect two more emperors to appear. Was there going to be an earth-shattering battle between emperors today? Xie Qitian, you're really scheming. You know that Xiao Wan has reappeared, but you want to use us to get rid of him and test his strength. The Wuju's Sword Emperor said coldly. This time, the Tianwu sword sect suffered heavy losses. Not only had many spiritual gods been killed, but even a branch had been annihilated. Not only had they lost an honorable in battle, they had even lost the devil fetus. If the devil fetus was refined, it would be able to fight against a ruler. How could the absolute martial sword emperor not be angry? At first, I wasn't sure if Xiao Wan was born. Xie Qitian explained casually. His eyes were still on Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan, I didn't expect you to be alive after being suppressed for 30,000 years. You can even come out. This is really beyond my expectations. I have to thank you for sending Lu Ming into the 9 underworlds. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to escape. Speaking of which, you're the one who started all this. I should thank you. Xiao Wan laughed loudly. Many people were shocked. It turned out that the reason Xiao Wan was able to return to the world was actually really because of Lu Ming. In other words, it was Lu Ming who saved Xiao Wan. Some people who knew the inside story sighed. If it weren't for the imperial Xia family imprisoning Xia and Yanqing in the 9 underworlds, Lu Ming wouldn't have entered the 9 underworlds. If Lu Ming didn't enter, how could he have saved Xiao Wan? Everything was because of the imperial family. How ironic. Xiao Wan was right. If it weren't for the imperial family, how could Xiao Wan have escaped? Xiao Wan, even if you've escaped, what can you do? You've been suppressed for 30,000 years and your vitality is greatly damaged. Your demonic body is damaged and your strength is far from recovered. Today, I'll kill you completely to prevent future troubles. Xie Qitian said with a cold murderous intent. Besides Xie Qitian, the auras of the other 2 sovereigns spread out and locked onto Xiao Wan to prevent him from escaping. Absolute Martial Sword Emperor, Lightning Saber Emperor, how about joining forces with me to get rid of Xiao Wan today? I'll definitely reward you handsomely. Xie Qitian looked at Absolute Martial Sword Emperor and Lightning Saber Emperor. Xie Qitian, this is your Xia family's matter. I won't interfere. Absolute Martial Sword Emperor chuckled. I'm not interested either. Lightning Saber Emperor shook his head as well. Murderous intent flashed across the eyes of Xie Qitian and the others as they were unhappy. They knew what the Absolute Martial Sword Emperor and Lightning Saber Emperor were planning. If the imperial family and Xiao Wan were to be injured in the battle, it would be a good thing for the other overlords. They could take the opportunity to weaken the imperial family's strength and even destroy the Xia family. Why would they help the Xia family? Junior, I'm not here to fight with you today. I'm here to give you treasures. Xiao Wan suddenly laughed. Give them treasures? His words not only confused everyone in Sacred City, but even Xie Qitian, Absolute Martial Sword Emperor, and the others were puzzled and confused. Xiao Wan, what are you trying to do? Xie Qitian said solemnly. In the ancient records of the Xia family, Xiao Wan was not only unparalleled in combat strength but also in scheming. He had to be wary of him. You'll know when you see. Xiao Wan smiled and stretched out his palm. A golden light bloomed from his hand. It was a golden token. After it appeared, it expanded rapidly and became a giant token that was 100 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. There were 2 words written on the token, Heavenly King. Xie Qitian, the other 2 sovereigns, Absolute Martial Sword Emperor, and Lightning Saber Emperor widened their eyes when they saw the token. Then, endless greed appeared in their eyes. Chapter 1168. The cultivation environment of the Divine Wilderness Continent was too bad for a martial emperor. In the Divine Wilderness Continent, it was almost impossible for a martial emperor to break through and improve. In the Yuanlu, a martial emperor could continuously break through. However, the Yuanlu was also extremely dangerous. There were countless forbidden areas and too many powerful beings. It was extremely dangerous for a martial emperor to travel in the Yuanlu, and they could die at any time. Legend had it that in the history of the Divine Wilderness Continent, there were martial emperors who found the Yuanlu to break through. They wanted to cultivate there, but they all died. If they wanted to cultivate in the Yuanlu, they could only join the major factions and seek protection from them. However, the conditions for the major factions to recruit disciples were too harsh. Ordinary martial emperors could not catch their eyes. Only those with special conditions could join. The Heavenly King Palace was one of the major factions in the Yuanlu. The Heavenly King token was a token issued by the Heavenly King Palace. As long as one had the Heavenly King token, even if one's talent was weak, one could join the Heavenly King Palace and cultivate there. According to Xiao Wan, the Heavenly King token originally belonged to the Imperial Xia family. The reason why the Imperial Xia family was able to prosper was because of the Heavenly King token. Generations of martial emperors had joined the Heavenly King Palace. That was why they were able to dominate the Divine Wilderness Continent for millions of years. However, 30,000 years ago, the Heavenly King token was stolen by Xiao Wan. With the Heavenly King token, one could join the Heavenly King Palace, one of the major factions in the Yuanlu. How tempting was that to a martial emperor? When one reached the martial emperor realm, their goal was to continue breaking through and seek a stronger realm to obtain more lifespan. Otherwise, they might not be able to break through in the Divine Wilderness Continent for the rest of their lives. Who would be willing to watch the end of their lifespan approach and slowly die? Although they could dominate a region in the Divine Wilderness Continent, it was all in vain. When the time was up, they would turn into dust. For a martial artist, only one's realm and strength were real. If they could choose, most of the martial emperors would choose to head to the Yuanlu and join a major faction to seek a stronger realm. Unfortunately, if they headed to the Yuanlu without joining a major faction, the chances of them dying were too high. That was why the martial emperors of the Divine Wilderness Continent stayed on the Divine Wilderness Continent. Otherwise, they would have headed to the Yuanlu to cultivate. The Heavenly King's token was an opportunity. To a ruler, it had a fatal temptation. When Lu Ming heard all of this, he was shocked. The overseas world was much more exciting and mysterious than he had imagined. If there was a chance, Lu Ming would definitely go overseas and experience the Yuanlu. Xiao Wan, the Heavenly King token belongs to the Imperial Xia family. Give it to me now. Xia Qitian could no longer remain calm as he stared at the Heavenly King token with a burning gaze. Xia Qitian, your Xia clan has been in control of the Heavenly King token for 1,000,000 years. Now, it's the turn of the other forces. Xiao Wan, give me the Heavenly King token and I will do my best to protect you. Wuju's Sword Emperor also shouted. Leave it to me, I'm willing to ally with you. The Lightning Saber Emperor also shouted. They were so tempted that they lost all sense of propriety. If they could obtain the Heavenly King token, they could immediately leave the Divine Wilderness and head overseas to find Yuanlu. They could then join the Heavenly King Hall to cultivate. As for their disciples, how could they compare with their own future? No matter how strong the Imperial Xia family was, they could just leave. You think you can take my Xia clan's Heavenly King token? Die! Xia Qitian shouted as he charged towards Xiao Wan with the other two sovereigns. A wisp of a grin appeared on the corners of Xiao Wan's mouth, and then he suddenly tossed the Heavenly King's token to the Sword Emperor. The Heavenly King token is for you. Xiao Wan shouted as his demonic aura swept up Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing and retreated to the side. The Heavenly King token is mine. Wuju's Sword Emperor was overjoyed as he reached out his hand to grab the Heavenly King token. Don't even think about it. It's mine. On the side, the lightning saber emperor revealed a greedy look. A resplendent saber radiance wrapped in thunderbolts slashed towards Wuju's sword emperor. Lightning, you're courting death. Wuju's sword emperor was enraged as a vast sword radiance burst out and slashed towards the lightning saber emperor. Boom! When the sword radiance and the lightning saber radiance clashed, the sky was filled with sword chi and saber aura. The space was torn apart by the collision of the sword chi and saber aura like a spider web, covering the entire sky. A few sword chi and saber aura overflowed and slashed the ground below. The ground was split open and a few huge ravines that were more than 10,000 miles long appeared. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the holy city shone and a light barrier rose, blocking the force outside. Otherwise, the entire holy city would not be able to withstand a few rounds of torment. Hand over the Heavenly King token. Xie Qitian and the two sovereigns of the imperial family pounced towards Wuju's sword emperor and launched a powerful attack. Holy light filled the sky and a few white suns seemed to have appeared in the sky. The entire holy city was shrouded in milky white holy light. It was so dazzling that one could not open their eyes. Boom! 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 The sky and the ground seemed to have experienced a magnitude 10 earthquake. The violent tremors caused the entire space to be pierced. Lu Ming looked from afar and could only see a few figures fighting crazily. They fought in the sky and then in the dark space. Whoosh! A sword radiance accidentally overflowed and pierced into the ground. Immediately, an unfathomable hole appeared in the ground. After a while, magma gushed out. That sword had pierced through the earth's crust. The sovereigns were fighting crazily. The scene was too shocking. In the holy city, countless people watched in a daze. They were shocked by such a terrifying scene. If the holy city was not protected by an extremely powerful formation, they would not dare to stand here. Once they were affected by the aftershocks, they would die. Everything that happened today was beyond everyone's expectations. The main characters of today's matter were not involved, but Xie Qitian and the other sovereigns were engaged in a fierce battle. Let's go. They have no time to care about other things. Let's go to the chaotic realm and find the backup I left behind. When I recover my cultivation as a sovereign, I won't have to be afraid of them anymore. Xiao Wan said. Then, he tore through space with Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing and disappeared. 3 days later, a piece of news spread throughout the entire central continent and even the 4 territories at the speed of a hurricane. 3 days ago, Lu Ming went to the holy city and displayed his terrifying combat strength. Then, the chaotic Sky Emperor, Xiao Wan, who was rumored to have fallen 30,000 years ago, appeared and was rescued by Lu Ming from the netherworld demon realm. That was why the royal family chased after him. In the holy city, Xiao Wan took out the Heavenly King's token, causing an intense battle between the sovereigns. That battle caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. The sun and moon lost their light. It was incomparably tragic. In the end, the Wuju's sword emperor was killed by the royal family in that battle. The lightning saber emperor fled with heavy injuries, and the Heavenly King's token fell into the hands of the Xie family. When this news spread out, many people were dumbfounded. Xiao Wan appeared, the sovereigns fought, and a sovereign fell because of this. How many years had it been since a sovereign fell because of a battle? Now, there was one. Chapter 1169. In the eastern part of the Middle Continent, in a large city near the chaotic realm, Lu Ming smiled when he heard the news. The Middle Continent was going to be in chaos. The Tianwu sword sect would definitely go crazy after a sword emperor was killed. It was said that there were 2 sword emperors in the entire Tianwu sword sect. Now that one of them was killed by the royal family, they would definitely seek revenge. Also, the Heavenly King token was a treasure that all emperors coveted. Which emperor wouldn't be tempted? Now that the royal family had obtained it, would the emperors let it go? Impossible. The battle between the emperors had just begun. Next, it would definitely be more intense. There would be an even more intense fight for the Heavenly King token. The Xia family of the royal family might not be able to protect the Heavenly King token. Of course, this was more beneficial to Lu Ming because the royal family would no longer have the time to care about him. They could barely take care of themselves. The most direct manifestation was that the projection of the divine secret apparatus had disappeared. Obviously, the royal family had stopped the operation of the divine secret apparatus and wanted to spend more time on how to protect the Heavenly King token. Fight to your heart's content. Lu Ming smiled. He rose into the air and flew toward the chaotic realm. Soon, Lu Ming flew into the territory of the chaotic realm. After nearly 2 years, Lu Ming came to the chaotic realm again. But now, Lu Ming's cultivation was no longer the same as before. The various forbidden areas and powerful existences in the chaotic realm were no longer a threat to him. Lu Ming didn't slow down at all and flew past at extreme speed. Below, powerful existences felt the terrifying aura on Lu Ming's body and immediately retreated. They didn't dare to make the slightest movement for fear of attracting disaster. Following Xiao Wan's guidance, after flying for tens of millions of miles, Lu Ming came to a dark mountain range. At a glance, the mountain range was black and filled with demonic aura. There were even demonic creatures below. Lu Ming lowered his altitude and flew forward. Roar! Roar! A few demonic beasts roared. Their eyes shone with a ferocious light as they pounced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped out and a few demonic beasts were smashed into pieces. Lu Ming's body released a terrifying aura. Although the magical beasts had low intelligence, they could still feel fear and retreated. Lu Ming went all the way down and finally came to the edge of a pit. This crater had a radius of 100 miles, and was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom of it. Demonic qi continued to seep out of the pit, and it was extremely dense. This was the place that Xiao Wan had mentioned. Demonic qi flashed, and Xiao Wan's figure appeared. He looked at the pit and muttered, "It's been 30,000 years, I wonder how they are now. Let's go." After saying that, he immediately jumped into the pit. Lu Ming followed suit. The crater was very deep, and only after descending for about 1,000 miles did they reach the bottom. At the bottom, there was a black magic stone with complicated inscriptions carved on it. Xiao Wan's hands moved and inscriptions entered the demon stone. The demon stone began to glow. In the end, it cracked open with a cracking sound, revealing a black vortex. Space door. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this was a spatial door. Let's go. Xiao Wan was the first to step into the spatial door, and Lu Ming followed closely behind. The space flashed, and in the next moment, Lu Ming realized that they had appeared on top of a mountain. Looking up, there were vast mountains all around, and there was black demonic qi permeating the space. This was a plane. The backup that Xiao Wan had mentioned was actually a plane, and this plane was very similar to the 9 underworlds. Demonic qi surged, and the heaven and earth were filled with demonic qi. However, the heaven and earth spirit qi and origin qi were very thin. The space between his brows flashed, and Xian Yanqing's figure appeared. Xian Yanqing looked at the scene in front of him and was a little surprised. Back then, I was afraid that if I failed, I would be suppressed or severely injured, so I found this plane and left some subordinates here to guard it and a place for me to recover. It's been 30,000 years, I wonder how they are now. Xiao Wan opened his mouth and explained. Who is it? How dare you barge into my 10,000 devil abyss? At this moment, a loud shout was heard. In the distance, dozens of figures flew over at an extremely fast speed. Their bodies were filled with demonic qi, and they were all spirit embryo realm martial artists. In an instant, dozens of burly men in black armor appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others. All of them stared at them coldly. However, When their gazes landed on Xiao Wan, their expressions changed drastically, revealing looks of disbelief as they exclaimed, "Demonic ancestor, it's the demonic ancestor. How is it possible? The demonic ancestor is still alive?" One of them even waved his hand, and a statue appeared in his hand. This statue was exactly the same as Xiao Wan. Demonic qi surged into the sky, and it had a domineering aura that seemed to dominate the world. "It's really the demonic ancestor!" they shouted in disbelief. "Where's your commander? Call him over," Xiao Wan ordered. The dozens of burly men in armor looked at each other, their eyes still filled with disbelief. The demonic ancestor that they were talking about was Xiao Wan. Obviously, they couldn't believe that Xiao Wan was still alive after 30,000 years. "Please wait a moment, we'll go and report this," one of the burly men with the highest cultivation base said, then turned around and left. The others hurriedly followed, turning into dozens of black demonic lights and disappearing from the place. However, after waiting for a while, there was no movement at all. "No one came here." Xiao Wan frowned slightly and said, "Let's go and take a look." Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing nodded, and the three of them flew forward. After flying over layers of mountains, an incomparably huge city appeared in front of them. At this moment, the huge city was filled with powerhouses. Many armored warriors guarded the surroundings of the huge city as if they were facing a great enemy. Among them, there were more than 10 people whose auras rose and were incomparably terrifying. Supreme Being. These dozen or so people were all Supreme Being experts. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. It seemed that the place that Xiao Wan left behind was no small matter. There were actually so many powerhouses. Of course, these powerhouses couldn't be those people from 30,000 years ago. They must be the descendants of those people. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, all eyes on the huge city fell on Xiao Wan, causing a commotion. The demonic ancestor, it's exactly the same as the legendary demonic ancestor. Could it be that the demonic ancestor has really returned? Unbelievable. Voices sounded one after another with shocked expressions. Especially the dozen or so supreme-level powerhouses. While they were shocked, their auras became even stronger as they stared at Xiao Wan. "Where's your commander? Who is he? Ask him to come out and see me." Xiao Wan frowned even more, and his cold and commanding voice sounded. No one answered. Even the dozen or so supreme-level powerhouses didn't answer. Instead, their eyes flickered, and no one knew what they were thinking. "I'm Xiao Wan, the Chaotic Sky Emperor. Why aren't you greeting me?" Xiao Wan shouted loudly, causing many armored burly men to tremble. "How dare you pretend to be the Chaotic Sky Emperor? You deserve to die." At this moment, a loud shout came from the depths of the huge city. When the voice sounded, heaven and earth shook. An earth-shattering demonic aura soared into the sky, suppressing all directions. An emperor, this was the pressure of an emperor. There was actually an emperor hidden here. Chapter 1170. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. There was actually a demon emperor hiding in this place, but he had never heard of it in the outside world. A demon emperor and so many supreme being powerhouses were enough to establish an overlord force in the outside world and compete with the heroes of the world. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect the younger generation of the demon abyss to be so good. There's actually an emperor among them. However, his talent is not bad, and his ambition is not small. Xiao Wan laughed out loud. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Obviously, Xiao Wan was referring to the other party's ambition. Now, he did not want to acknowledge Xiao Wan and dominate by himself. Humph. The other party was wearing a black armor and had a monstrous demonic aura. At this moment, he snorted and said, "I don't know who you are, but you're so bold. You're still a little bit away from becoming an emperor, yet you dare to impersonate the Chaotic Sky Emperor. What a joke." Indeed, Xiao Wan's cultivation had not truly recovered to the Emperor realm. He was still a little bit away, so judging from his aura, he was indeed not an emperor. That was also the reason why he was so bold. You guys, go and see what ability he has to impersonate the chaotic Sky Emperor. The war-armored demon emperor looked at the dozen or so supreme beings. The faces of the dozen or so supreme beings changed drastically. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. They were hesitating. They had all seen Xiao Wan's statue or portrait before. Those statues or portraits were all engraved with inscriptions. They were able to engrave Xiao Wan's charm and aura on them. They were practically identical to the person before them. How would they dare to attack? What a bunch of trash. The war-armored demon emperor saw that the dozen or so supreme beings did not dare to step forward and could not help but snort coldly. Don't ask them to come and die. You're very ambitious, but I don't know how strong your combat strength is. Let me test your combat strength. Xiao Wan spoke and strode forward. A powerful and terrifying aura rose from his body. Endless demonic aura gathered above Xiao Wan's head like a demonic cloud. You want to fight me when you're not an emperor? You're courting death. Demonic domain. The war-armored demon emperor shouted. A dark domain visible to the naked eye appeared around his body. With him as the center, it spread outwards and spread towards Xiao Wan. A domain evolved from intent. It was somewhat similar to Xian Yanqing's sky demon force field, but its power was many times stronger. On Xiao Wan's body, there was also a black domain spreading out. With him as the center, it spread out. It was also a domain. Their domains were like two bubbles that collided in midair and emanated deafening rumbling. This was a collision between domains. An ordinary domain enlightened spirit gods would be minced into powder if they approached it. Kill. 10 demonic sky strikes. The Warframe Demon Emperor roared and strode forward, unleashing a powerful attack. Sometimes he clenched his fist, sometimes he changed it into a palm. Together with the demon domain, he attacked Xiao Wan. Break. Xiao Wan's attack was very direct. His muscles bulged like a demonic weapon as he punched out. The punch caused the opponent's domain to tremble violently, and it was almost pierced through. Then, the punch collided with the opponent's palm. The sky exploded like a clap of thunder. The two figures trembled and retreated. Immortal devil body, it's the immortal devil body. It really is the devil ancestor. Several supreme beings cried out in alarm, incredibly shocked. In the divine wilderness continent, there were many who cultivated the demonic path, and there were more than one or two who became emperors as demons. However, there was only one person who cultivated the immortal devil body in 1,000,000 years, and that was Xiao Wan. The other demon emperors broke through to the emperor realm and cultivated the spirit body, but they were not as strong as the immortal devil body. Spirit bodies were also divided into strong and weak. The immortal devil body was one of the stronger spirit bodies. Even if Xiao Wan was still a little bit away from recovering to the emperor realm, with the immortal devil body and his combat experience, he could fight against ordinary emperors. If some people still had some doubts before, they no longer had any doubts when the immortal devil body appeared. Chaotic demonic art, chaos of heaven and earth. However, the Warframe Demon Emperor's killing intent was even stronger. He performed an unparalleled demonic art, and endless demonic energy gathered. A terrifying aura filled the world as if it was going to turn the world upside down. However, Xiao Wan's eyes were calm, and there was even a hint of a sneer in his eyes. His body directly rushed into the endless demonic energy. You're courting death. The Warframe Demon Emperor revealed a ferocious expression and was about to attack Xiao Wan, but suddenly, his expression changed drastically. The endless demonic energy suddenly trembled violently, and his body also trembled violently. Then, he spat out large mouthfuls of blood, and his face turned pale. Swoosh! Xiao Wan rushed out and struck the Warframe Demon Emperor with a palm that blotted out the sky. Bang! The Warframe Demon Emperor's armor was pierced through, and his body emitted cracking sounds of bones breaking. However, Xiao Wan did not stop. Following that, he threw another punch. This punch smashed half of the Warframe Demon Emperor's body and caused it to explode. I created the chaotic demonic art. Back then, I passed it to the demon abyss and left a flaw. I was afraid that one day, the demon abyss or the descendants of the demon abyss would rebel. Xiao Wan's voice was very cold. Just now, the Warframe Demon Emperor used the chaotic demonic art, but Xiao Wan caught the flaw and severely injured him. Xiao Wan had already left a backup plan. Xiao Wan's claw grabbed the Warframe Demon Emperor's neck and said with killing intent, "Traitors should be killed." "No, demon ancestor, please spare me, please spare me. Everything is a misunderstanding. I thought someone was impersonating you, so I wanted to test it out." The Warframe Demon Emperor struggled with all his might and begged for mercy loudly. Half of his body was smashed, but as an emperor who had cultivated a spirit body, his vitality was terrifying. Even if half of his body was smashed, he could quickly recover. Regrowing a broken limb was very simple for an emperor. "Oh. Is that so?" Xiao Wan's gaze was still cold, and he had a faint smile on his face. "Yes, yes. If I knew that it was you, demon ancestor, I wouldn't have dared to make a move even if I had 10,000 guts. Don't worry, demon ancestor, since you have returned to the world, I will definitely be loyal to you in the future." The Warframe Demon Emperor shouted. "Is that so? Originally, I would definitely kill a traitor, but now, I am in need of people, so I can spare your life. Make a blood oath and I will give you a chance to redeem yourself in the future." Xiao Wan said. The Warframe Demon Emperor was helpless. At this moment, in order to save his life, he could only make a blood oath to be loyal to Xiao Wan. Only then did Xiao Wan release the Warframe Demon Emperor. The Warframe Demon Emperor panted heavily. Demonic chi spread all over his body and he began to recover. "What is your name?" Xiao Wan asked the Warframe Demon Emperor. "Subordinate Moyi greets the demon ancestor." The Warframe Demon Emperor said respectfully. "Subordinate welcomes the return of the demon ancestor." The others also bowed. I have been trapped for 30,000 years and need the 10,000 demon pool to recover. Bring me there." Xiao Wan instructed. Moyi, the dozen or so supremes, and some spirit gods hurriedly nodded. "Lu Ming, little girl, come with me. I have something to say." Xiao Wan looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The two nodded and followed Xiao Wan, Moyi, and the others. They flew past the huge city and arrived at a huge mountain peak. Chapter 1171. Little girl, I've said that if you save me, I'll pass on my legacy to you. I won't go back on my word. With that, Xiao Wan pointed at Xian Yanqing's forehead, and a black light flashed and disappeared. "I've already imparted my life's worth of cultivation experience and demonic arts to you. However, everyone's path is different. You can use it as a reference, but you can't copy it. Also, there's a demonic palace here. You can enter it to cultivate. It'll be very beneficial to your cultivation." Xiao Wan said. Xian Yanqing closed his eyes and sensed for a moment. He then nodded and cupped his fists. "Thank you, senior. Ha, although we've been apart for more than 30,000 years, our fates are similar. There's no need to be polite." Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This Xiao Wan was a man of his words. To be honest, along the way, although Lu Ming had the idea of borrowing Xiao Wan's power, he had always been wary of Xiao Wan. At this moment, his wariness had lessened. At this moment, Xiao Wan looked at Lu Ming. Demonic chi gathered in his palm and condensed into a black token. He handed it to Lu Ming and then looked at Mo Yi and the rest. Brother Lu Ming is my benefactor. In the future, seeing him is like seeing me. He can walk freely anywhere in the 1,000-demon abyss. Do you understand? We understand. Mo Yi and the rest bowed. Also, the outside world is in chaos. Send people to keep an eye on the outside world. When I come out of the 1,000-demon abyss, I'll take you out and dominate the divine wilderness mainland. Xiao Wan said loudly, full of confidence. The demon ancestor is invincible. We'll follow your orders. Mo Yi and the rest bowed again. Xiao Wan nodded, then turned to look at the middle of the mountain and strode forward. The array seemed to recognize Xiao Wan and did not react. Soon, Xiao Wan's figure disappeared. Mo Yi and the rest were shocked. The array of the 1,000-demon abyss was extremely terrifying. Even an emperor like Mo Yi could not break it, but Xiao Wan walked in easily without any hindrance. Obviously, this was the trump card left behind by Xiao Wan all those years ago. Young Master Lu, Miss Xia, the demon ancestor needs time to recover. The two of you can move around freely. If you need anything, feel free to look for me. Mo Yi looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and smiled. He could see that Xiao Wan seemed to value Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing very much. He even passed down his mantle to Xian Yanqing in front of them. Naturally, he had to treat him politely. You're being too courteous, Demon Emperor. Please feel free to do as you wish. If there's anything else, I'll go and disturb you. Lu Ming smiled faintly. All right then, feel free to walk around. We won't disturb you anymore. Mo Yi said. Then, he left with the others and arranged for people to go out and scout for information. Shao Qing, shall we take a walk? Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's hand and said. Sure. Xian Yanqing nodded. The two of them held hands and walked in the air, casually strolling around. Now that Xiao Wan had recovered more and more, the restraint of the prison-suppressing steel on him was getting smaller and smaller. He could stay away from Lu Ming without being affected. The two of them strolled around and chatted. During this period of time, the two of them had been running around and did not get along well. On a mountain peak, the two of them leaned against each other. The two of them quietly enjoyed this peace and tranquility. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, the two of them did not cultivate and only got along quietly. 3 days later, Xian Yanqing went to the demon hall to cultivate in seclusion. They knew very well that the divine wilderness continent was about to fall into chaos. In such an environment, the only foundation was to increase one's own cultivation. Otherwise, they would be drowned by the floods sooner or later. Compared to those overlord forces, they were still too weak. As for Xiao Wan, they knew very well that it was just an exchange of benefits. They saved Xiao Wan, and Xiao Wan might help them once or twice. However, it would not last long. In the end, they still had to rely on themselves. However, before Xian Yanqing went to cultivate in seclusion, Lu Ming imparted the Divine Gate 9 seals to Xian Yanqing. After Xian Yanqing cultivated the Divine Gate 9 seals, his combat strength would be stronger. Xian Yanqing entered the demon hall to cultivate in seclusion. Lu Ming also prepared to cultivate in seclusion on a mountain peak not far from the 10,000 demon pool. However, there was one more thing to do before he went into seclusion. With a wave of his hand, a pile of storage rings appeared. These storage rings were left behind by the enemies he killed during this period. Many of them were left behind by high-level spirit god experts. Lu Ming had not checked them all this time. Now that he had time, it was a good time to do so. With a thought, Lu Ming entered the mountain river diagram and began to sort out the items in the storage rings one by one. After he finished counting, even though Lu Ming was mentally prepared, he was still dumbfounded by the amount of wealth. There were more than 1 billion ores. More than 1 billion ores, what kind of terrifying wealth was this? Ha, it's enough for me to use for a long time." Lu Ming was overjoyed. In addition, there were a lot of profound crystals of various grades, and their value was shocking. There were some low-grade, middle-grade, and even high-grade profound crystals that Lu Ming had no use for, but he kept them for the Lu family, Hua Qi, and the others. They would be of great use in the future. There were also various kinds of spiritual pills, spiritual herbs, spiritual weapons, and so on. After all, there were dozens of high-level spiritual god experts among them. The wealth they had left behind was too shocking. Lu Ming was grinning from ear to ear. He sorted them all and put them away. During this time, Dandan smelled the spiritual herbs and rushed over. Lu Ming gave him some of the spiritual herbs and told him to recover well. After counting, Lu Ming began to comprehend the intent realm under the Enlightenment ancient tree with the help of the profound crystals. Now, Lu Ming had enough ores. As long as he had a breakthrough in the intent realm, he could use the ores to increase his cultivation. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. On this day, Lu Ming sensed something and came out of the mountain river diagram. He looked in the direction of the 10,000 demon pool. Above the 10,000 demon pool, demonic clouds gathered and demonic chi filled the sky. A supreme pressure spread out. Lu Ming knew that Xiao Wan had come out of seclusion. Buzz! Lu Ming's spine glowed. Lu Ming felt that the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel was vibrating slightly. With a thought, Lu Ming rose into the air and flew towards the 10,000 demon pool. Whoosh! Demonic chi surged and finally gathered together. Xiao Wan's figure appeared. After 3 months, the aura emitted from Xiao Wan's body was terrifying. It was as vast as an abyss and unfathomable. Every single one of his muscles seemed to possess a destructive power that could destroy everything. Lu Ming understood that Xiao Wan had completely recovered to the ruler realm. As for what level he had reached, Lu Ming had no idea. At this moment, Mo Yi and the others also flew over. However, with a wave of Xiao Wan's hand, they all stopped in the distance and did not approach. Buzz! At this moment, the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel flew out from Lu Ming's body. It quickly grew to the size of a mountain and flew towards Xiao Wan, floating above his head. Boom! Chapter 1172. Bang! 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 Subsequently, Xiao Wan's palm continuously slapped the remnant piece of the prison-suppressing monument. After 36 consecutive slaps, the remnant piece of the prison-suppressing monument hummed and flew back to Lu Ming, floating above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming sensed carefully and noticed that Xiao Wan had completely broken free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument and was completely free. Xiao Wan had said before that he could only completely break free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument once he recovered his Emperor Realm cultivation. Huff! Xiao Wan let out a long breath, and his eyes revealed excitement. He had been suppressed by the prison-suppressing monument for 30,000 years, and at this moment, he could be considered to have truly broken free. Lu Ming looked at Xiao Wan and didn't say anything. At this moment, Xiao Wan also looked at Lu Ming. Their eyes met, and each of them had their own thoughts. After a short while, Xiao Wan spoke first. "Lu Ming, how about we form an alliance?" Lu Ming was slightly stunned by these words. Now, Xiao Wan had completely broken free from the suppression of the prison-suppressing monument. Lu Ming thought of many things that Xiao Wan would say, even turning hostile. Lu Ming thought of all of them, but he never expected that Xiao Wan would actually want to form an alliance with him. Xiao Wan was a figure that roamed the world, and his cultivation had already recovered to the Emperor realm. Coupled with Mo Yi and other powerful subordinates, his strength was formidable. As for Lu Ming, he was only at the 4th level of the spirit god realm. Why would Xiao Wan form an alliance with him? What did an alliance represent? It represented that both sides were equal, on equal footing. Lu Ming couldn't figure it out. At this moment, Countless thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, I know you're surprised. To be honest, with your current strength, you're simply not qualified to form an alliance with me. However, your talent is something I've never seen before in my life. Perhaps I'll need your help in the future. Xiao Wan seemed to have seen through Lu Ming's thoughts and explained. What are your specific conditions? Lu Ming asked. To be honest, he was very tempted to form an alliance with Xiao Wan. His current strength was still weak. Not to mention that the Talisman Puppet sect was currently trapped. Even if it wasn't, there were no sovereigns overseeing it. It would be very difficult for them to contend against the Overlord forces. He indeed needed powerful reinforcements. If he could really form an alliance with Xiao Wan and be on equal footing without being restricted by Xiao Wan, it would be a good choice. My condition is very simple. I have my eyes on your future. With your talent, you will definitely become an emperor in the future. It won't be too difficult for you to surpass me in the future. With your talent, the Divine Wilderness continent is not your final destination. In the future, you will most likely step out of the Divine Wilderness continent. My condition is that if you step out of the Divine Wilderness continent in the future and join a great force in the Yuan continent, you have to think of a way to let me join that great force as well. Xiao Wan opened his mouth and stated his condition. Xiao Wan's words were very direct. It was clear that Xiao Wan was interested in his future. This was like an investment. He wanted to invest in Lu Ming. A cultivator should pursue the peak of the martial Tao and fight against the heavens. An emperor can only live for 10,000 years, at most 20,000 years, before turning into dust. Only by breaking through to a higher realm can one fight for more lifespan. It is said that a saint can live for 100,000 years. How carefree is that? Only one's cultivation is real. Everything else is just an empty title. Unfortunately, I have been suppressed for 30,000 years and have long passed my peak age. It is already impossible for me to join a great force like the Yuan continent. Xiao Wan sighed and a yearning look appeared in his eyes. The peak of the martial Tao and an even longer lifespan were the lifelong pursuits of every cultivator. From Xiao Wan's words, Lu Ming could hear the helplessness in his tone. Originally, with Xiao Wan's talent, if he hadn't been suppressed for 30,000 years, it was possible for him to join a great force in the Yuan continent. But now, it was impossible and he needed help. Therefore, he proposed such a condition to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's talent was even higher than his when he was young. Lu Ming, this is my condition. If you agree, we will form an alliance and be on equal footing. My force will be your force. I can help you deal with strong enemies. I guess you must have offended many strong enemies along the way. Xiao Wan stared at Lu Ming and said. All right, I agree. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded. Xiao Wan made it clear. In fact, this was an exchange of interests. Sometimes, Lu Ming was more willing to believe in an exchange of interests as it was more realistic. If Xiao Wan had said that he agreed to form an alliance with Lu Ming to thank him for saving his life, Lu Ming wouldn't have believed him. All right. Xiao Wan was delighted. He waved his hand in the air and a complicated blood-red inscription pattern appeared. I will now swear a blood oath to form an alliance with Lu Ming. Xiao Wan was decisive. He immediately swore a blood oath to form an alliance with Lu Ming. Then, Lu Ming also noticed the blood oath. Ha, all of you, come here. Xiao Wan looked at Mo Yi and the others. Mo Yi and the others flew over. As you saw just now, Lu Ming and I have formed an alliance. We are on equal footing. I announce that from now on, Lu Ming and I will be the supreme commanders. His authority is the same as mine. From now on, seeing him is like seeing me. Do you understand? Xiao Wan instructed. I understand. Although Mo Yi and the others had 1,000 doubts in their hearts, they could only nod. Was this young man's talent really higher than the demon ancestors? Mo Yi and the others found it hard to believe. Mo Yi, during this period of time, you have sent people to inquire about the outside world. How is the situation in Zhongzhou state now? Xiao Wan asked. It's chaotic. The outside world is in chaos. Immediately, Mo Yi introduced the information he had gathered during this period of time. Ever since Xiao Wan took out the Heavenly King token in the Holy City, a battle between emperors had begun. The world was shocked when Wu Ju and Emperor Wu were killed. Following that, the emperors of the various overlord forces in Zhongzhou state moved out and gathered in the Holy City to fight for the Heavenly King token. In the end, the imperial family was forced to hand over the Heavenly King token under pressure. As a result, an earth-shattering battle broke out between the emperors. That battle could be said to be the most intense and tragic battle after Xiao Wan's rebellion 30,000 years ago. More than 20 emperors participated in the battle, and a terrifying battle unfolded. In that battle, many emperors were injured, and 2 of them even died on the spot. In the end, the Heavenly King token fell into the hands of the heaven-guarding divine army. After this battle, Zhongzhou state was in complete chaos. First, the Xia family of the imperial family gathered their allied forces and sent out an army to attack the heaven-guarding divine army. The heaven-guarding divine army was not to be outdone. They also joined forces with their allied forces and mobilized an army to fight a fierce battle with the imperial family. As for the other overlord forces that did not participate in the battle between the 2 forces, they also began to attack each other. In the past, although the major forces were constantly in conflict with each other, they were still controlled on a small scale and maintained a delicate balance. However, in the battle for the Heavenly King token, the balance was completely broken. The Xia family of the imperial family and the heaven-guarding divine army attacked each other. The remaining overlord forces also took the opportunity to expand their strength and fought endlessly. Chapter 1173. The worst were Ji family and Sky Eagle Fort. In the battle for the Heavenly King token, the 2 sovereigns who died were the sovereigns of Ji family and Sky Eagle Fort. These 2 forces only had 1 sovereign each. Now that their sovereigns were dead, they naturally became the target of the other forces. Now, these 2 overlords had been destroyed. Only 16 of the 18 overlords of Central Continent were left. How cruel was it to destroy an overlord just like that? How are the forces near the Chaos Realm? Lu Ming asked. Mo Yi answered honestly, Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain are the closest to the realm of chaos. After Eagle Emperor of Sky Eagle Castle fell, Cold Blood Hall reacted the fastest. They immediately sent an army to attack Sky Eagle Castle and divided up most of their territory. Some of the experts of Sky Eagle Castle also surrendered to Cold Blood Hall, which greatly increased their strength. Now, Cold Blood Hall is at war with Floating Mountain. Today, Cold Blood Hall seems to have attacked Floating Mountain's headquarters. Cold Blood Hall. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Cold Blood Hall had always held a grudge against him. How are the other territories? Did they fight? Xiao Wan asked. The Northern Plains fought. Earlier, sovereigns from the Northern Plains fought for the Heavenly King token. But now, the Northern Plains seems to be in a civil war. The forces in the Northern Plains are fighting with each other. They did not intervene in Central Continent's affairs. However, Western Desert, Southern Ming, and Eastern Wilderness did not fight. No sovereigns fought for the Heavenly King token. Mo Yi answered. Southern Ming and Eastern Wilderness did not fight? Lu Ming and Xiao Wan were surprised. It made sense that Western Desert did not fight. Western Desert had a long history. There were rumors that Western Desert had a strong background and seemed to be related to the overseas. But it was strange that Southern Ming and Eastern Wilderness did not fight. Especially the emperors of the underworld in Southern Ming. They were all very powerful, aggressive, and greedy. They did nothing in the face of the Heavenly King token. Even the sovereigns of Eastern Wilderness did not participate. This was very strange. Senior, what should we do now? After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming asked Xiao Wan. Go to the northern plains. I don't mind telling you, I've left a backup plan in the northern plains. The northern plains overlord force, Demon God Valley, is the backup plan I've left behind. We'll go to the northern plains first and unify the northern plains major forces. Then, we'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. We'll see the situation of the central continent and then make our plans. Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming was secretly shocked, thinking that the other party was indeed the chaotic Sky Divine Emperor, who was able to cause the collapse of the ancient Saint dynasty when it was at its peak. He was truly unfathomable. Even if he was suppressed, he still left behind a series of backup plans. However, if we want to go to the northern plains, we will need to use the Transcendent Domain Teleportation Array. Now that there is a war, who would want to borrow our Transcendent Domain Teleportation Array? We have to destroy an overlord before we can use their trans-territory teleportation array. Lu Ming spoke, seeing where the problem lay. That's right. So now, we have to destroy Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain. Lu Ming, which one do you think we should destroy? Xiao Wan said. Destroy Cold Blood Hall. Floating Mountain and I are old friends. Maybe we can form an alliance. Lu Ming said. Okay, then we will destroy Cold Blood Hall. Mo Yi, assemble the army and set off immediately. Xiao Wan ordered. Mo Yi and the others went to assemble the army. Lu Ming walked in the void and came to a tall and ancient palace. This ancient palace was the demonic palace, where Xian Yanqing was cultivating in seclusion. Not long after Lu Ming arrived, Xian Yanqing appeared at the entrance of the ancient palace. Little Qing, let's go. I will take you back to the eastern wilderness. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing's little hand. Lu Ming had another purpose for this battle. If Cold Blood Hall was destroyed, Lu Ming could use their trans-territory teleportation array to link up with the Talisman Puppet Sect. In this way, the Talisman Puppet Sect could use the trans-territory teleportation array to send people directly to Cold Blood Hall. In this way, the Talisman Puppet Sect's siege would be lifted. Even if DE broke through the Yin and Yang formation, there would be nothing to be afraid of. In addition, Lu Ming also wanted to see if he could use the power of Xiao Wan and Mo Yi, the two demon emperors, to get rid of DE. If he could get rid of DE, then it would be once and for all, and there would be no future trouble. Lu Ming, has Xiao Wan recovered? Xian Yanqing asked with some worry in his eyes. Obviously, Xian Yanqing did not trust Xiao Wan. This was a demon emperor who could shake heaven and earth. If he fully recovered and got rid of the shackles of the fragments of the prison-suppressing steel, who knew what he would do? Xian Yanqing was also worried. Don't worry, Xiao Wan and I have formed an alliance. Then, Lu Ming told him about Xiao Wan forming an alliance with him. After hearing this, Xian Yanqing was relieved. Rumble. Iron hooves stepped on the air, shaking the void of the myriad demon abyss, and demonic chi soared into the sky. More than 100,000 soldiers, wearing battle armor and riding powerful demonic beasts, jumped in the sky, and the void kept shaking. The 100,000 soldiers were all experts of the Spirit Sea realm and above. This was equivalent to the army of an overlord force. The army of an overlord force had the Spirit Sea realm as the soldiers, the Spirit Embryo as the backbone, and the Spirit God as the general. They could destroy heaven and earth. 100,000 people, riding demonic beasts, gathered in the sky above the giant city. At the front, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan stood side by side. Behind them, Xian Yanqing, Mo Yi, and more than 10 supreme beings stood. This battle is our first battle. After this battle, we will walk out of the myriad demon abyss and establish ourselves in the boundless territory of the divine wilderness continent. Are you confident? Xiao Wan's voice came from afar. Yes. The army of 100,000 roared, and their momentum shook the sky. Good, in this battle, our target is the Overlord force, Cold Blood Hall. We have received news that Cold Blood Hall's main force is besieging Floating Mountain. In this battle, we will split into two groups. One group will be led by General Lu Ming to kill the Cold Blood Hall army attacking Floating Mountain, with Moe as support. The other group will follow me to attack Cold Blood Hall's lair. Let's go. After Xiao Wan's announcement, the army set off. Let's go. Lu Ming led the main force and set off first, heading straight for Floating Mountain. Rumble. A total of 80,000 soldiers, riding demonic beasts, stepped on the void, and followed Lu Ming out of the myriad demon abyss, flying toward Floating Mountain. Lu Ming rode on a great perfection spirit god demonic beast, flying at the front. Looking at the powerful army behind him, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. Lu Ming knew that this army did not belong to him, but to Xiao Wan. Although he was still weak, Lu Ming was confident that he would soon be able to dominate the divine wilderness continent, have his own invincible army, and conquer the world. That day won't be too far away. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with confidence. After leaving the Chaos Realm, Moe took out a huge warship. The 80,000 soldiers all boarded the warship, and Moe steered the warship, flying toward Floating Mountain at top speed. Of course, they could not fly to Floating Mountain, as it was too far away. Many Sea of Soul Realm martial artists had to fly, and no one knew how long it would take. With Moe's warship, it would be many times faster. Chapter 1174. The beautiful Floating Mountain was now engulfed in the flames of war. Cold Blood Hall had sent out almost all of its forces to attack Floating Mountain. Floating Mountain had activated its defensive formation, but after days of attacks from Cold Blood Hall, its defensive formation was already on the verge of collapse. A fierce battle was still going on. Blood dyed the divine mountain red. Cold Blood Hall had always been stronger than Floating Mountain. In addition, Cold Blood Hall had acted quickly this time and occupied a large portion of Sky Eagle Fort's territory. Many powerful existences in Sky Eagle Fort had surrendered to Cold Blood Hall, which allowed Cold Blood Hall to completely suppress Floating Mountain. Boom! 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 A terrifying roar came from the depths of the sky. It was the battle between Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain. It was extremely fierce, and it was hard to tell who would win. The battle was even more intense in various parts of Floating Mountain. Cold Blood Hall and Sky Eagle Castle had many more Supremes than Floating Mountain Sect. In terms of Supreme Experts and Advanced Spirit Gods, Cold Blood Hall had far more Supreme Experts than Floating Mountain. Caw! Caw! In some parts of Floating Mountain, the defensive formation had collapsed. Giant eagles were circling in the sky, launching terrifying attacks. They were all Sky Eagle Fort experts. Sky Eagle Fort experts had just surrendered, so naturally, they were eager to be put in an important position by Cold Blood Hall. Ha, Floating Mountain, let's see how long you can last. Jing Kongling, when we break Floating Mountain, I'll make you beg for mercy under my crotch. Sanguinarum stood in the air, looking at Floating Mountain from afar and laughing coldly. Beside him, there were many experts following him. This time, the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had given Shueluazi a lot of power and given him command of a powerful army. Obviously, he wanted to train Shueluazi as his successor. Sanguinarum was Cold Blood Hall's future hope. Put in more effort to break Floating Mountain. When the time comes, you'll be rewarded. Cold Blood Hall's voice came from afar. His face was beaming with joy, high-spirited and full of lofty sentiments. Sky Eagle Fort, an overlord force that had been fighting with Cold Blood Hall, was still destroyed by them. Yin Bupo, a powerful second-class genius, was killed by Sanguinarum in the end. Cold Blood Hall's strength had skyrocketed. Floating Mountain was about to be taken down. Sanguinarum could already see himself becoming the emperor in the future, leading Cold Blood Hall experts to conquer the central continent. Jing Kongling, Sandalwood Fairy, Lu Yusin, Xian Yinjuan, you're all mine. Sooner or later, I'll take you all. Sanguinarum's imagination. Rumble. Suddenly, a deafening rumble sounded in the sky. It was as if there were thousands of savage beasts trampling on the sky. A loud explosion interrupted Xue Luozi's daydream. What's going on? He asked coldly. A blood-robed old man looked behind him with a solemn expression. Cold Blood Hall's heart sank as he asked. Demonic chi is soaring. Could it be Demon Mountain's army? It shouldn't be. Demon Mountain can't even take care of itself now. How could they have the strength to come here? The blood-robed elder frowned and whispered. Rumble. The tremors in the sky grew stronger and stronger. The entire sky was trembling slightly. Cold Blood Hall experts gathered to set up defenses and watched from afar. Gradually, demonic chi soared into the sky. Countless experts in black armor rode demonic beasts and rushed over. Finally, they stopped 1,000 miles away from Cold Blood Hall. Which force do you belong to? We are Cold Blood Hall. May I know what you're here for? Cold Blood Hall stepped out and spoke first. We're here to destroy Cold Blood Hall. A voice rang out as two figures stepped into the air and appeared in front of the crowd. It's you, Lu Shaoqing, no, Lu Ming. Sanguinarum's pupils shrank as he exclaimed in disbelief. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing who stepped out. The other experts of Cold Blood Hall also widened their eyes in shock. A few months ago, the Xia family of the imperial family activated the divine secret instrument in order to capture Lu Ming, shocking the entire central continent. But in the end, not only did they fail to capture Lu Ming, but a series of major events also happened. It could be said that all of this started because of Lu Ming. Since Lu Ming appeared in Sacred City, he had disappeared with Xiao Wan. Who would have thought that he would reappear now? Lu Ming had appeared, so where was Xiao Wan? Fear flashed in the eyes of Cold Blood Hall experts as they solemnly glanced at Lu Ming and the others. Xiao Wan's name was so well known that it made them fearful. No need to look. The chaotic Sky Divine Emperor is not here. Lu Ming said faintly. Lu Ming, what are you talking about? Sanguinarum asked. Didn't I tell you just now? Destroying Cold Blood Hall. It seems that your ears are not working well. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Destroying Cold Blood Hall. Humph, what a boast. Even if Xiao Wan came in person, he wouldn't dare to say that. The imperial family has long spread the news that Xiao Wan has been suppressed for 30,000 years and has damaged his foundation. He is no longer an emperor. Don't think that we are afraid of him. Besides, he is not here yet. Elder Yuan, go and cripple Lu Ming. Sanguinarum gritted his teeth and said. Kill. A scarlet-robed elder unleashed a terrifying aura as he charged toward Lu Ming. Supreme, this was a supreme. You're courting death. Behind Lu Ming, a burly man stepped out with a giant axe and chopped at the scarlet-robed elder. Boom. The two of them trembled and retreated after exchanging a blow. Supreme. Sanguinarum's face darkened. Senior, I don't know why you were bewitched by Lu Ming, but it won't do anyone any good to go against Cold Blood Hall because of him. Everyone, can you give us face and hand over Lu Ming and leave? Cold Blood Hall will reward you handsomely. Sanguinarum cupped his fists and said to the burly man. In his heart, he was open to negotiation for anything. He speculated that these experts might be Xiao Wan's subordinates, but even if Xiao Wan came in person, conditions were negotiable. He speculated that these diabolism experts had come with Lu Ming to attack Cold Blood Hall because Lu Ming had promised them something. But how could a mere Lu Ming's offer compare to Cold Blood Hall's? How could a mere Lu Ming compare to Cold Blood Hall's value? As long as he persuaded these diabolism experts to take down Lu Ming, it would be a piece of cake. What an idiot. Young Master Lu Ming is the supreme commander of our army. He's on an equal footing with the Lord of Chaos Heaven Demon. You want us to hand him over? The burly man waved his battle axe and sneered. What? What? Supreme Commander. On an equal footing with the Lord of Chaos Heaven? Sanguinarum and the rest of Cold Blood Hall were dumbfounded. Lu Ming was the supreme commander of these people and was on an equal footing with Xiao Wan. How could this be? How could Lu Ming do that? Kill. Destroy Cold Blood Hall. Chapter 1175. Demonic Qi surged like thunder. Following Lu Ming's order, terrifying existences stepped out from behind him and charged at the Cold Blood Hall experts. The Cold Blood Hall experts, including Sanguinarum, turned pale. The experts charging at them were too powerful. There were no less than 6 or 7 supreme masters and many advanced spiritual gods. Kill, kill, kill them all. Xue Luozi shrieked, while his body retreated. Kill. The experts from both sides collided, creating a shocking shockwave. Black demonic qi and crimson demonic qi soared into the sky and pervaded the area. Bang! Lu Ming stepped out and walked towards Sanguinarum. Sanguinarum, you managed to escape with your life amulet in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. Today, I'll take your life. Lu Ming stared at Sanguinarum and walked toward him step by step. Sanguinarum's face darkened. He retreated quickly and roared, "Kill him! Lu Ming, die!" Beside Sanguinarum, a middle-aged man in a crimson robe charged at Lu Ming. He was a spiritual god of perfection expert. However, as soon as he appeared, another expert rushed out from behind Lu Ming and blocked him. "Now, let's see who can save you," Lu Ming said. The spiritual god of perfection expert was the last expert by Sanguinarum's side. The rest were not worth mentioning. Kill him. Sanguinarum continued to yell. 2 LV7 spiritual god experts charged at Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming struck out with 2 palms and the 2 LV7 spiritual god experts were torn to pieces. How could this be? Sanguinarum's face turned pale. Lu Ming killed 2 LV7 spiritual god experts with 1 palm. How could he be so powerful? Today, no one can save you. Lu Ming took a few steps forward and quickly approached Sanguinarum. Save me. Patriarch, save me. Sanguinarum screamed in fright. Lu Ming could even kill an expert at the 7th level of the spirit god realm with a flip of his hand, let alone him. He was really scared. The other experts of Cold Blood Hall wanted to help, but they were all entangled by their opponents and could not get away. As for some experts, they were further away and couldn't make it in time. Bastard, you're courting death. At this moment, an earth-shaking roar came from the sky. Then, a blood-red light broke through the sky, carrying an aura that could destroy everything as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Ancestor, Lu Ming, die. Sanguinarum was overjoyed and revealed a ferocious expression. This attack was filled with the aura of an emperor. It was an emperor from Cold Blood Hall who wanted to kill Lu Ming with 1 blow. But at this moment, a burly man in iron armor behind Lu Ming burst out with an earth-shattering aura. With a flash of demonic light, he defeated the blood-red light. I didn't want to besiege you, but since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Mo Yi looked at the sky, his eyes cold. The next moment, he turned into a beam of demonic light and rushed towards the Cold Blood Hall Emperor. He joined forces with the Emperor from Floating Mountain to besiege the Cold Blood Hall Emperor. An emperor, it's an emperor. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Xiao Wan was not here, but other than him, there was an emperor behind Lu Ming. This was too shocking. Many people from Cold Blood Hall were in despair. The consequences of 2 emperors besieging a Cold Blood Hall emperor would be dire. Demon Emperor. Sanguinarum screamed in horror, his eyes filled with despair. Kill. Lu Ming took another step forward and appeared in front of Sanguinarum, striking down with his palm. No. Sanguinarum roared. He used bloodline fusion and turned into a blood-winged heavenly bat to resist with all his might. But Lu Ming's palm strike destroyed the blood-red light and shattered the blood-winged heavenly bat. Not only the blood-winged heavenly bat, but even Sanguinarum's body was shattered. Sanguinarum was dead. The people from Cold Blood Hall were shocked. Sanguinarum was dead. It was a great loss to Cold Blood Hall that this genius who had the potential to become an emperor had died. An angry roar came from the sky. What are you shouting for? You can't even save yourself today. Mo Ye's voice came from the sky. Roar. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and completely devoured Sanguinarum's essence and blood. But Lu Ming immediately frowned. This was because the essence that Shui Luozi cultivated was the essence of blood, which was not of much use to Lu Ming. Only the essence and blood were of some use. At this moment, on Floating Mountain, a beautiful woman was looking at the battlefield outside. She was Jing Kongling. Beside her stood several experts from the Hanging Mountain. Open the formation and kill with all your might. Cooperate with Lu Ming and attack Cold Blood Hall from both sides. Jing Kongling gave the order at this moment. Presently, the second-rate geniuses had matured and stepped into the domain enlightened spirit god realm successively. As these second-rate geniuses advanced into the domain enlightened spirit god realm, their statuses in their respective sects and powers rose along with it. It was comparable to some exalted figures, and it was even to the extent that their statuses were even higher than exalted figures. This was because it was certain that the second-class geniuses would become supremes in the future. They even had a great chance of becoming emperors. It could be said that their potential was limitless. The major forces had begun to slowly transfer some power to them as a form of training. Just like Sanguinarum, Jing Kongling also had an important right to speak in Floating Mountain. Kongling, it's too dangerous. Who knows if Lu Ming will turn around and attack us? An old man beside Jing Kongling said with a slightly changed expression. Yes, in these troubled times, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan have emperors following them. We have to be careful. Another person also spoke. Don't worry too much. Lu Ming and I are old friends. I believe in him. Open the formation and cooperate with Lu Ming. We must completely destroy Cold Blood Hall in today's battle. Otherwise, we won't have such a good opportunity again. Jing Kongling said in a firm tone. All right, we'll listen to you. An old man said. Then, his voice spread throughout Floating Mountain. Open the formation and kill everyone. Kill. Kill. As the formation was opened, Floating Mountain gathered all their strength and rushed madly toward Cold Blood Hall. They and Lu Ming's men attacked Cold Blood Hall from 2 sides. Instantly, Cold Blood Hall was in a disadvantageous position and their experts were killed one after another. Boom! 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 The battle was the most intense in the sky, and the sky was constantly shaking. Suddenly, a bloody light flashed. An arm fell from the sky with a soaring bloody aura, exuding a strong emperor's aura. It's the Blood Emperor. He's injured. Someone exclaimed. Especially those from Cold Blood Hall, their faces were pale. The Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall is about to be defeated. Kill! Lu Ming's men and Floating Mountain took the opportunity to shout. Their morale was greatly boosted, and they completely suppressed Cold Blood Hall. Cold Blood Hall experts were killed continuously, and their bodies fell like raindrops to the ground. Chapter 1176. Unfortunately, most of the people from Cold Blood Hall cultivated the essence of blood, while a few cultivated various kinds of essence of weapons. It was of little use to Lu Ming, and did not help Lu Ming's essence at all. Lu Ming's cultivation improved rapidly after devouring a large amount of energy. However, it stopped when he reached the peak of the 4th level of Spirit God Realm. No matter how much energy he refined, he could not absorb it and could only dissipate and waste it. Because the essence of heaven and earth did not improve, his cultivation was stuck. In the end, Lu Ming decided not to devour vital essence, but only blood essence to improve his bloodline. However, Lu Ming's bloodline did not improve even after devouring the blood essence of more than a dozen 8th level, 9th level, and even perfected spirit god experts. Both the 9 Dragons bloodline and the prison-suppressing Steel bloodline were at level 8 of the divine realm. It was too difficult to improve from level 8 to level 9 of the divine realm. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled bitterly. Could it be that he had to devour the blood essence of a supreme martial artist to improve? Lu Ming began to look around to see if any supreme martial artists had been killed. Ah! With a scream, a supreme martial artist from Cold Blood Hall was killed. Blood splattered everywhere and fell to the ground. The fresh blood contained terrifying power. When some strong practitioners of the spirit embryo realm were splashed by the fresh blood, their bodies became riddled with holes. Fall back. Below, some of the myriad Demon Abyss and Cold Blood Hall troops retreated frantically, afraid of being splashed by the blood. Supreme Martial Artist Blood Essence. Lu Ming's eyes burned with passion. Shao Qing, wait for me here. Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Be careful. Xian Yanqing warned. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. He used his movement technique and dashed toward the corpse of the supreme martial artist. Whoosh! A drop of a supreme martial artist's blood shot toward Lu Ming like a blood-red meteor, carrying a terrifying aura. Bam! Lu Ming struck out with his palm, causing the drop of blood to scatter. However, Lu Ming also felt his palm go numb and a faint pain. Supreme Being is really powerful. This is just a drop of his blood, but it has such a terrifying power. It contains a lot of energy. It's a pity that I don't have enough heaven and earth concept right now. Otherwise, I would be able to quickly improve my cultivation after refining this blood. Lu Ming pondered silently. He did not bother about the fresh blood. In a flash, he dashed toward the corpse of the supreme martial artist. The 9 Dragons bloodline opened its mouth and roared. Its devouring power erupted. 9 drops of sparkling and translucent blood essence flew out from the corpse of the supreme martial artist and were devoured by the 9 dragons. Boom! After the 9 drops of blood were swallowed by the 9 dragons, they exploded. Boundless energy rampaged through the 9 dragons' bodies. The 9 dragons' bodies rapidly swelled up like a rubber ball, their volume increasing by several times. The energy within the supreme martial artist's blood essence was too powerful. Refine, refine. Lu Ming roared, frantically manipulating the 9 dragons' bloodline to refine the blood essence. He knew that he had been too impulsive. The amount of energy contained in the blood essence of a supreme being was simply too shocking. Even with his current cultivation base, he had to refine it drop by drop. That would be the safest way to proceed. Devouring all 9 drops in one go, that amount of energy was simply too shocking. Rumble. The 9 dragons' bloodline frantically operated the refining power to refine the blood essence within his body. Fortunately, he managed to hold on and did not explode. Gradually, the supreme martial artist's blood essence was refined and used to improve the 9 dragons' bloodline. Die! At this moment, a blood-red light flashed and charged toward Lu Ming. It was a white-haired elder from Cold Blood Hall. He was Sanguinarum's protector. After Sanguinarum's death, he had been eyeing Lu Ming for a long time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he attacked Lu Ming. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. The 3rd bloodline emerged and a murderous intent gushed out like a tide. Bam! Lu Ming's palm shattered the elder's blood-red light. His palm force surged toward the elder like a storm. Back then, outside Sacred City, Lu Ming was already at the peak of LV8 Spirit God Realm. Now that a few months had passed, Lu Ming's cultivation had risen to the peak of LV4 Spirit God Realm. His battle strength was stronger than before, so it was easier for him to deal with a peak LV8 Spirit God Realm expert. The elder was shocked. He did not expect his surprise attack to be easily defeated by Lu Ming. He unleashed his true yuan and punched. Bam! Lu Ming's palm struck his fist, causing him to tremble all over. He retreated at high speed. Die, die! Lu Ming's eyes turned blood red. Endless murderous intent shrouded the elder, causing his body to shiver and his battle strength to weaken. Boom! He activated the hell-suppressing heaven skill and struck out 2 palms in succession. The white-haired elder tried his best to block the 2 palms, but his arms exploded and he spat out mouthfuls of blood. Whoosh! The third bloodline turned into a blood-red sword. Under Lu Ming's control, it turned into a beam of blood-red light and pierced through the elder's forehead, killing him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Lu Ming's figure flashed and returned to Xian Yanqing's side. Because Xian Yanqing had a supreme being by his side, he could ensure their safety. After arriving, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and focused on refining the essence blood. This refining process took more than 10 minutes. Only then did the essence blood in the 9 dragons' bodies calm down and return to Lu Ming's control. At this time, Lu Ming opened his eyes and stood up. He still had not completely refined the Supreme Being essence blood, but there was no need to worry. He could slowly refine it. At this time, the situation on the battlefield was clear. Countless experts of Cold Blood Hall had been killed, including a few Supreme Beings. They were completely at a disadvantage. Defeat was inevitable. RIP. At this moment, the space in the sky was constantly cracking. Lu Ming looked up and could barely see 3 figures fighting. One of them was Mo Yi, who had a towering demonic qi. The other was a woman with a graceful figure. She was shrouded in a halo and her face could not be seen clearly. She must be the Emperor of Floating Mountain, Martial Emperor Uxian. The last person was shrouded in blood-red light. Needless to say, he was the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall. But at this time, the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall was in a terrible state. His aura was weak, and one of his arms was missing. He had been severely injured by Mo Yi and Martial Emperor Uxian. Blood Emperor, today, you will die, said Uxian coldly. Her voice was filled with killing intent. It was Empress Uxian. You want to kill me? Dream on. The Blood Emperor's cold voice rang out. The blood-red light suddenly burst out and forced Martial Emperor Uxian and Mo Yi to retreat. He turned into a beam of blood-red light and fled madly into the distance. The Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had fled. Don't even think about it. Mo Yi shouted coldly and chased after the Blood Emperor with Martial Emperor Uxian. Seeing that the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall had fled, the morale of the Cold Blood Hall members was greatly reduced. I surrender, I surrender. I surrender too. The giant eagles of Sky Eagle Castle were the first to surrender. They did not have a sense of belonging to Cold Blood Hall. Seeing that the situation was not good, they naturally surrendered one by one. With the surrender of the giant eagles, Cold Blood Hall was even more at a disadvantage. Those who surrender and are willing to engrave the formation in your consciousness sea will be spared. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Chapter 1177. I'm willing to surrender too. Me too. In the end, even the disciples and experts of Cold Blood Hall began to surrender. Some of the diehards killed those who did not surrender. Before long, the battle stopped. Almost all the experts of Cold Blood Hall had surrendered. A few supreme martial artists broke through the siege and escaped. The rest of the supreme martial artists had surrendered. Even an emperor had been defeated and fled. If they continued to stubbornly resist, they would be courting death. The battle had ended. Later, Lu Ming ordered the experts to work with Floating Mountain to engrave a formation in the consciousness seas of those who surrendered. Brother Lu, we meet again. Jing Kongling gracefully walked over. She was surrounded by mist and looked ethereal like an immortal. Miss Kongling. Lu Ming cupped his fists in greeting. Jing Kongling's gaze landed on Xian Yanqing, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. I believe this must be Miss Xian Yanqing. She is truly a peerless beauty that Brother Lu is willing to personally come to the 9 underworlds. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes and took Lu Ming's arm. You're too kind. Then a voice came into Lu Ming's ears. You know quite a lot of beauties when I'm not around. I was wondering why you attacked Cold Blood Hall instead of Floating Mountain. It turns out that there's a beauty waiting for you to save her. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Was this girl jealous? Lu Ming's mind raced as he tried to find an excuse. Hiss. At this moment, the space cracked and Mo Yi and Martial Emperor Yu Xian walked out. Mo Yi, how's the Blood Emperor of Cold Blood Hall? Lu Ming asked hurriedly. His body was shattered and the spirit deity was severely injured. Unfortunately, he escaped with the injured spirit deity. Mo Yi explained with some regret. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The Blood Emperor was indeed powerful and difficult to kill. Even with 2 emperors at the same level, he still managed to escape. However, even though he has escaped, he won't be able to cause any trouble in a short period of time. The spirit god was seriously injured, and fled with all his might. He doesn't have much strength left. Mo Yi explained. Brother Mo Yi, thank you for your help this time, said Empress Yu Xian at that moment, bowing to Mo Yi. Yu Xian martial monarch was very beautiful. She looked like she was only in her 30s. She didn't look like an emperor realm expert who had been famous in the central continent for nearly 10,000 years. There's no need to thank me. I'm just following orders. If you want to thank someone, you should thank Commander Lu Ming. Mo Yi smiled and looked at Lu Ming. Yu Exin martial monarch looked at Lu Ming with a trace of surprise in her eyes. Mo Yi actually obeyed Lu Ming's orders. A ruler actually obeyed the orders of a young junior. This was truly rare in the world. Greetings, Senior Moon Heart. Lu Ming cupped his fists towards Yu Exin martial monarch. Commander Lu, you're too courteous. How about we go into the mountains for a chat? Said Yu Exin martial monarch. Lu Ming and the others nodded and followed Yu Exin martial monarch, Jing Kongling and the others into Floating Mountain. They sat down in a hall. Thank you for your help, Commander Lu. Otherwise, Floating Mountain would be in danger. Yu Exin martial monarch thanked Lu Ming again. You're too courteous. Miss Kongling and Chu Kuang are old friends of Floating Mountain. It's my duty to help them. Lu Ming thought for a while and said, the central continent is in chaos now. Many forces are fighting. If they're divided, they'll be weak. If they're united, they'll be strong. What do you think of Lu Ming's proposal to ally with Floating Mountain? Ally? Yu Exin martial monarch, Jing Kongling and the other supreme masters of Floating Mountain were all stunned and pondered. Yu Exin martial monarch thought for a while and said, I wonder if Senior Xia is here. Senior Xia is in Cold Blood Hall's lair. I'm afraid Cold Blood Hall has fallen into his hands, said Lu Ming. 2 allies. Commander Lu, can you represent Senior Xia? Said Yu Exin martial monarch. Obviously, Lu Ming was not important enough in Yu Exin martial monarch's eyes. Don't worry. Commander Lu can make decisions on behalf of Demon Ancestor, said Mo Yi. This shocked Yu Exin martial monarch, Jing Kongling and the others. They did not expect Lu Ming to have such great power in Xiao Wan's forces. Yu Exin's eyes flickered slightly. All the rumors about Lu Ming that she had heard flashed through her mind. This guy has a bright future. In the end, Yu Exin's eyes lit up and said, great. In that case, Floating Mountain will ally with Commander Lu. She was talking about Commander Lu, not Emperor Wan. Great. Lu Ming thanks Senior Yu. Lu Ming was overjoyed. To have one more ally was a great advantage for Lu Ming. Immediately, the two sides carried out a simple ceremony to formally form an alliance. After the alliance, Lu Ming said goodbye to Yu Xin and the others, because Xiao Wan had sent news that the headquarters of Cold Blood Hall was completely under his control. Lu Ming led the army and went straight to Cold Blood Hall. Cold Blood Hall had been completely occupied. Those who had stayed behind had either surrendered or been killed. Experts from Myriad Demon Abyss were everywhere in Cold Blood Hall. Many of them were inscribing formations or repairing formations all over Cold Blood Hall. It did not take long for Lu Ming and the others to arrive at Cold Blood Hall. At Cold Blood Hall, more than a dozen experts gathered at the cross-domain transmission formation. Xiao Wan, Lu Ming, Mo Yi, and the others were among them. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to be the Zongzi of Eastern Wilderness Talisman Puppet Sect. But you don't have any spirit fire. How strange. Xiao Wan laughed. Lu Ming smiled faintly but did not explain further. Senior, please help me adjust the coordinates of Talisman Puppet Sect. Lu Ming said. Immediately, a few supreme martial artists who were stronger in the way of inscription stepped forward and adjusted the coordinates of Talisman Puppet Sect on the huge cross-domain transmission altar. On the other hand, Lu Ming closed his eyes slightly. At this moment, in Talisman Puppet Sect, a cave that had been closed for a long time suddenly opened. Lu Ming's second body stepped out of it. Lu Ming's second body moved and went to Bai Shijin's mansion. Not long after, Lu Ming's second body, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and two other supreme martial artists appeared at the cross-domain transmission formation of Talisman Puppet Sect. The chaotic Sky Emperor Xiao Wan has reappeared. You even formed an alliance to destroy the Overlord power, Cold Blood Hall. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others muttered to themselves. Ever since Lu Ming's second body briefly explained the situation in Central Continent, they still could not believe it and had not recovered from the shock. Senior, now, everything is true. Let's adjust the coordinates of Cold Blood Hall and accept their transmission request. Lu Ming's second body said. Good, good, ha, in this way, DE can't trap us. Bai Shijin laughed. The others also smiled. If they could communicate with the overlord power of Central Continent, they would no longer have to be afraid of DE's siege. Even if the Yin and Yang formation was broken, they would have a way out. Immediately, they began to adjust the coordinates. The transmission formation required the consent of both parties. It could not be transmitted just because one party wanted to. Chapter 1178. Not long after, the coordinates of the two sides were matched. The altar of the interterritory teleportation formation emitted a dazzling light and a black vortex appeared above it. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest stared at the vortex. Not long after, two figures emerged from the vortex. Lu Ming. Bai Shijin and the rest were overjoyed. One of the two figures was Lu Ming and the other was Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped out of the vortex and appeared in front of Bai Shijin and the rest. Is this your second body? Xian Yanqing's big eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at Lu Ming's second body. What? Do you want to give me a kiss? The second body suddenly smiled and said. Lu Ming's consciousness entered the second body and spoke. Xian Yanqing's little face instantly flushed red and she glared at Lu Ming. The second body pointed at Lu Ming and took a step forward. It rapidly shrank and entered the heart of Lu Ming's brows, sitting cross-legged in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. At this moment, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest were looking at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with astonishment. Lu Ming, your cultivation. What realm are you at? Bai Shijin asked. Actually, he had already seen through Lu Ming's cultivation, but he found it hard to believe. Peak of the 4th level of the Spirit God realm. Senior, what's wrong? Lu Ming said. CSI, Bai Shijin and the rest sucked in a breath of cold air. It had only been around 2 years. When Lu Ming set out from the eastern desolation to the central continent, his cultivation was only at the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm. But in 2 years, not only had Lu Ming surpassed the spirit god realm, he had even reached the peak of the 4th level of the spirit god realm. This was truly too shocking. After reaching the spirit god realm, they knew very well how difficult it was to advance a level. But to Lu Ming, it didn't seem difficult at all. Also, they looked at Xian Yanqing. They naturally saw through Xian Yanqing's cultivation. He was at the peak of the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. Strong, too strong. The point was that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were still so young. It was truly shocking that they had reached this level at such an age. They were at such an age. In comparison, the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet sect were a far cry from Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Perhaps Lu Ming can really lead the Talisman Puppet sect to rise. They thought. At this moment, the teleportation grand formation trembled slightly, and 2 more figures appeared. It was Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. Subconsciously, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others swept their spirit senses towards Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. With a sweep, their expressions changed drastically as they exclaimed. Emperor! It's an emperor! 2 emperors! Bai Shijin and the others exclaimed with strong vigilance. Their eyes were filled with shock. Seniors, this is Xiao Wan, Senior Xia, and this is Demon Emperor Mo Yi. Lu Ming hurriedly introduced. Emperor Wan, Xiao Wan. The hearts of Bai Shijin and the others trembled. The name of Emperor Wan was not only known by the central continent, but also the experts of the Eastern Desolation, Southern Underworld, and other territories. Bai Shijin and the others naturally knew. After that, Bai Shijin and the others hurriedly bowed to Xiao Wan and Mo Yi. Yes. Xiao Wan nodded casually and spread out his spirit sense. I didn't expect that the Talisman Puppet sect wouldn't be here. Back then, it was a famous sect in the Eastern Desolation. Xiao Wan spoke slowly, causing Bai Shijin and the others to feel slightly embarrassed. Senior Xia, I'll show you around. Lu Ming smiled. After 2 years, he returned to the Talisman Puppet sect. Lu Ming was in a good mood. This was the place that truly belonged to Lu Ming. It was the place that could be controlled by him. Xiao Wan's force was just an alliance. Xiao Wan nodded. Everyone stepped into the air and flew into the distance. On the way, Xiao Wan swept his gaze and nodded secretly. It seems that I've still underestimated Lu Ming. Other than not having an emperor, the strength he has isn't weak. What a powerful junior. He's trying to break through to the emperor realm. Once he breaks through, it will be no small matter. Xiao Wan's gaze looked towards the north, his eyes shining brightly. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming knew that Xiao Wan had sensed Supreme 9 Sons. In the past 2 years, Supreme 9 Sons had been in seclusion, trying to break through to the emperor realm. Father, mother. Immediately after, Lu Ming's gaze turned to the front. In front of him, Yan Kuangtu condensed his true origin into a cloud and flew over with Lu Yuntian, Li Ping, Hua Qi, Bai Qi, Shui, and the others. Obviously, they had received news that Lu Ming had returned. Originally, only a few people knew that Lu Ming had gone to the central continent and left his second body to guard the Talisman Puppet sect. Other than Bai Shijing, Yan Kuangtu, and a few other supremes, only Lu Ming's parents knew. However, ever since Lu Ming's true identity was exposed during the million-year sacrifice battle in the Holy City, the Wang family's patriarch, the Jiang family's patriarch, Di Shen, and the others returned to the eastern wilderness. News of Lu Ming's appearance in the eastern wilderness spread. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace publicly revealed that Lu Ming's second body was fake outside the Yin and Yang mountain. Only then did the others in the Talisman Puppet sect know that Lu Ming had left the Yin and Yang mountain for the central continent. Of course, no one would think of such a miraculous secret art like the twin life restriction. They all thought that Lu Ming's second body in the talisman puppet sect was someone else in disguise. Now that Lu Ming had returned, they naturally wanted to see Lu Ming after receiving the news. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing and flew forward, greeting Lu Yuntian and Li Ping, "Father, Mother. Ming, it's good that you're back." Although Lu Yuntian and Li Ping knew that Lu Ming was safe and sound through Lu Ming's second body, they were still overjoyed to see the real Lu Ming. Then, their gazes fell on Xian Yanqing. After being stunned for a moment, a smile appeared on their faces. Li Ping happily held Xian Yanqing's little hand and said, "Miss Yanqing, long time no see. Ming, finally brought you back. Good, good. Uncle, Auntie." Xian Yanqing's little face blushed slightly as she saluted Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The two elders nodded repeatedly, overjoyed. "Ha, so this is my younger sister-in-law. Truly a national beauty, rarely seen in this world." Yan Kuangtu laughed loudly, causing Xian Yanqing's little face to turn even redder. "Big brother Yan." Lu Ming greeted Yan Kuangtu, Hua Qi, and the others. Among the crowd, Bai Qi Shui looked at Xian Yanqing with a hint of loneliness in her eyes. Is this the woman Lu Ming likes? That year, in a fit of anger, she caused a great war in Nine Dragons City. She's truly devastatingly beautiful. Only such a woman is worthy of Lu Ming. Bai Qi Shui sighed in her heart, forcing a smile on her face. She stepped forward and greeted Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Then, Lu Ming introduced Xiao Wan and Mo Yi to Yan Kuangtu and the others. However, Lu Ming only introduced the names and did not introduce Xiao Wan's cultivation. Only Yan Kuangtu was shocked when he sensed Xiao Wan and Mo Yi's cultivation. "Father, Mother, go back to your residence first. I have something to do with the seniors. I'll find you later," Lu Ming said. "All right, it's fine. Go ahead," Lu Yuntian said. Then, they went back. Yan Kuangtu stayed behind. Senior Xia, the talisman puppet sect, is now surrounded by the Emperor God Divine Palace. The palace master of the Emperor God Divine Palace is an emperor. Senior, are you confident in dealing with him? Chapter 1179. Since Xiao Wan and Mo Yi were here, it would be best if they could use Xiao Wan to get rid of Martial King De. Xiao Wan did not say anything. He stood in the air and looked to the east, as if he was sensing something. In the east of the talisman puppet sect, Martial King De was cultivating in seclusion. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed something. His eyes suddenly opened and two rays of bright light shot out. A shocking aura rose from Martial King De's body. "Who is spying on me?" Martial King De said slowly. Inside the talisman puppet sect. Boom! Xiao Wan's expression changed abruptly. A powerful aura involuntarily rose from his body. However, the aura was quickly withdrawn. What a powerful cultivation! I never thought that there would be such a person in the Eastern Barren Territory. Xiao Wan frowned and said seriously. Lu Ming was shocked. Could Martial King De be so powerful? Even Xiao Wan was serious. Lu Ming, the Martial Emperor De that you mentioned is very powerful. If I was at my peak, I would be able to suppress him. However, I am not his match now. Don't provoke him for the time being. Give me some time and I will not be afraid of him. Xiao Wan said slowly. Lu Ming, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others' faces changed. Was Martial King De really that powerful? Even Xiao Wan thought highly of him and said that he was not his match. All right. Lu Ming nodded. He knew that Xiao Wan had been suppressed for 30,000 years. Although he had recovered a little, he was still far from his peak. It would be too difficult for him to recover to his peak. Lu Ming, let's go back to Cold Blood Hall and rest for a few days before heading to Northern Plains. If you want to go to Northern Plains, you can come here within 3 days. Xiao Wan said to Lu Ming. After that, he and Mo Yi stepped into the air and returned to Cold Blood Hall through the transdomain teleportation formation. After that, Lu Ming said goodbye to Bai Shijin and the others. He held Xian Yanqing's hand and went to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's residence. In the next few days, Lu Ming stayed at the Lu family's residence. When he had time, he would visit Hua Qi, the Mystic Essence Sword sect, and the others. 2 years ago, Lu Ming had left behind a large amount of resources. After 2 years, everyone had made great progress. Both Hua Qi and Pang Shi had reached the martial emperor realm. His father, Lu Yuntian, had also become a martial king. Among them, his 2 disciples, Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro, had made the fastest progress. They had already become high-level martial kings. However, this kind of progress was still far from Lu Ming's expectations. This time, Lu Ming left more resources for the Lu family, Hua Qi, and the others. They had all kinds of power Upanishad crystals, pellets, herbs, and weapons. 3 days later, in the Talisman Puppet Sect's assembly hall, Lu Ming, Yan Kuangtu, and the various elders and eminent elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect were gathered. Lu Ming sat on the main seat at the top of the hall. This was strongly requested by Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had already stepped into the spiritual god realm, and he had reached the peak of the 4th level spirit god realm. He was qualified to take charge of the Talisman Puppet Sect. Therefore, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others strongly requested that Lu Ming take the main seat. In the future, the Talisman Puppet Sect would be officially handed over to Lu Ming. Lu Ming was originally a Zongzi. Zongzi meant that when his cultivation improved and he was able to take charge, he could succeed the position of sect master. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, although it was still a little lacking, the Talisman Puppet Sect did not have an Emperor Realm expert. Therefore, the conditions were not too high. Lu Ming did not decline and accepted it calmly. Now, he indeed needed his own strength. Seniors, I've already explained the situation in the Central Continent. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please feel free to speak. Lu Ming said. Zongzi, us old fellows have been sealed off from the eastern wilderness for many years. We know nothing about the situation in the Central Continent. You know much better than us. We'll listen to you and do whatever you say. Bai Shijin said. That's what I think too. Du Songjue said. Ha, Lu Ming, I'll do whatever you say. I'll drink with you. Yan Kuangtu gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine and laughed. Alright, then I'll tell you what I think. Now that the Central Continent is in chaos and the various forces are at war and attacking each other, the strong are getting stronger and the weak are getting weaker and weaker. We can't sit still and wait for death. We have to take the initiative to attack and increase our strength. I've formed an alliance with the Chaotic Sky Divine Emperor and the Floating Mountain Sect. The Chaotic Sky Divine Emperor wants to conquer the Northern Plains. We can't miss this opportunity. I plan to gather a group of experts to fight with me. Firstly, we can obtain resources. Secondly, we can train ourselves. In the future, when we conquer the Northern Plains, we'll be able to communicate with the Northern Plains. That way, we'll be able to move freely. What do you think? Lu Ming explained his idea. Then we'll do as Zongzi says. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others nodded. Lu Ming, I'll fight with you. After staying in the Talisman Puppet Sect for so many years, there's no one to spar with. It's so boring. Yan Kuangtu said with a strong battle intent in his eyes. In the past, Yan Kuangtu was a war general of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was a battle maniac and had been cooped up in the Talisman Puppet Sect for the past few years. It was truly unbearable. Now that he heard that he could go to war, he naturally would not miss this opportunity. His heart was itching unbearably. I'll fight with Zongzi. I'll go too. Two founding elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect said. One of them was the founding elder of the Puppet Sect, Meng Chong. The other was the founding elder of the Talisman Puppet Sect, Jiang Ku. Both of them had the cultivation of sovereign realm. Great, I'm relieved to have the three of you together. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, they discussed the specific details. In addition to Yan Kuangtu, Meng Chong, and Jiang Ku, the other experts of the other levels were also selected to follow Lu Ming to fight. Some of the younger generation were also selected to follow Lu Ming as a form of training. It was difficult to make progress in the path of cultivation by blindly cultivating. One had to take risks and fight to make a breakthrough. After the plan was made, they began to spread the news. Then, Lu Ming led hundreds of people into the cross-domain teleportation formation and headed to Cold Blood Hall. The teleportation formation of Cold Blood Hall flickered and Lu Ming's figure appeared. Not long after Lu Ming appeared, a voice messaging jade charm came. Xiao Wan invited Lu Ming to the conference hall to discuss matters. Lu Ming led Yan Kuangtu, Meng Chong, and Jiang Ku to the conference hall and found that Xiao Wan, Mo Yi, and some sovereigns of the Myriad Demons Abyss were all there. When the sovereigns of the Myriad Demons Abyss saw Lu Ming, they used their spiritual senses to scan Yan Kuangtu and the others. Their eyes flickered slightly. They did not expect that Lu Ming also had sovereigns following him. They knew that they had underestimated Lu Ming. They used to think that Lu Ming was alone, but now they realized that they were wrong. Lu Ming also had his own forces. Lu Ming, sit. Xiao Wan pointed to the seat beside him. Chapter 1180. I'll tell you my next plan. The Northern Plains Demon God Valley is my backup plan. However, 30,000 years have passed and I don't know the exact situation. I'll go to the Demon God Valley alone and take control of it. Lu Ming will be in charge here. Wait for my news. After I take control of Demon God Valley, I'll open the cross-domain teleportation formation and connect it with Cold Blood Hall. They'll take the teleportation formation to Northern Plains. Xiao Wan told him his plan. Obviously, this was the best plan at the moment. Naturally, no one objected. Well, in that case, I'll leave now. Lu Ming, I'll leave this place to you. With that, Xiao Wan got up and took a step forward. When he stepped out, the space cracked and Xiao Wan disappeared into it. After Xiao Wan left, Lu Ming made arrangements for the people of Talisman Puppet Sect. Brother Yan, take this Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. In front of a courtyard, Lu Ming stopped Yan Kuangtu and handed him a small fiery red pagoda. It was the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda that he had obtained from the Saint Mansion's secret realm. He had lent it to Xiao Wan and returned it to Lu Ming after Xiao Wan recovered his Emperor cultivation. The Emperor's Spirit Pagoda was a fire attribute treasure with a fire domain. Yan Kuangtu's bloodline was the three-legged golden crow and his flame power was unparalleled. It was most suitable for Yan Kuangtu and would be even more powerful. This is an Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. Yan Kuangtu scanned it with his spiritual consciousness and his face suddenly changed. Lu Ming, this is too precious. I can't accept it. Brother Yan, do you still need to be polite with me? Besides, the war is imminent. This Emperor's Spirit Pagoda can only exert its full power in your hands. It's useless in my hands. Lu Ming pushed and the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda flew towards Yan Kuangtu. Seeing Lu Ming's firm attitude, Yan Kuangtu did not refuse and kept the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. To be honest, the Emperor's spiritual tower was very useful to him. It had a fire domain, which was helpful to his cultivation. It would also be useful for him to break through to the ruler level. Lu Ming, thank you. After Yan Kuangtu put it away, he solemnly clasped his fists towards Lu Ming with a rare solemn and serious expression. Ha, big brother Yan, I'm not used to seeing you like this. Lu Ming laughed and strode away. After returning to his residence, Lu Ming's glabella shone, and the figure of his second body appeared. A disc array appeared in Lu Ming's hand and flew to the second body. The second body caught it and continued to inscribe array formations with both hands. The second body's Tao of inscription was much stronger than it was 2 years ago. In an instant, numerous inscriptions flew into the disc. This disc array was the disc array given to him by the heavenly profound saint in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. As long as the second body controlled the disc array, he could enter the Saint Mansion's secret realm and obtain the heavenly profound saint's inheritance. Soon, the disc array shone brightly and formed a huge vortex. The second body nodded slightly to Lu Ming, then stepped into it and disappeared. After the second body disappeared, the vortex also disappeared. Everything was ready, and Lu Ming waited patiently. To his surprise, not long after, the floating mountain sect sent 2 supreme beings to assist Lu Ming in the conquest of the northern plains. Lu Ming was naturally overjoyed. With 2 more supreme beings, their strength would naturally be stronger. Time passed quickly. 2 days had passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Lu Ming received news from Xiao Wan that it was a success. Xiao Wan had successfully taken control of the Demon God Valley. Everyone in the Demon God Valley, including the ruler, had surrendered to Xiao Wan. Obviously, like the myriad demon abyss, Xiao Wan had a backup plan. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to subdue an overlord so easily. Next, the cross-domain teleportation arrays of the 2 places were connected. Let's go. Lu Ming waved his hand and the army set out. As for the Cold Blood Hall, only a few people were left behind to guard it. More than 100,000 soldiers were sent to the Demon God Valley through the teleportation array. Lu Ming led Yan Kuangtu and the rest to set out in the last batch. The Demon God Valley was one of the 5 overlord forces in the northern plains. It was powerful and had an emperor overseeing it. It was located in a vast mountain range. Inside, there were countless valleys of various sizes. Demonic chi filled the air, which was suitable for demonic Tao cultivators to cultivate. On the second day after Lu Ming and the rest arrived at the Demon God Valley, the army gathered in a huge valley. Xiao Wan and Lu Ming stood at the front. Beside them were 2 other people. One was Mo Yi, and the other was a burly old man called Chu Luo. He was the Demon God Valley's emperor. In the valley, the myriad devil abyss, the Demon God Valley and the talisman puppet sect experts that Lu Ming had brought with him were gathered. There are a total of 5 overlord forces in the northern plains. Each of them is very powerful. If we want to take down the other 4 overlord forces, we must attack as quickly as possible. Now, they are not aware of the Demon God Valley. If we wait until they are fully prepared, our battle will be much more difficult. I will discuss with Commander Lu. He and I will each lead an army to attack 2 forces. I will lead the army to take care of Golden Wave Cliff and Light Dragon Tower. Commander Lu, Mo Yi, Chu Luo, you will lead an army to take care of the Mountain Piercing Sect and 100 Beast Tribe. Take them down as quickly as possible. That way, the northern plains will be under our control. Xiao Wan announced. Yes. The army obeyed. Although the people from the Demonic God Valley, Chu Luo, and the rest were puzzled as to why Xiao Wan would form an alliance with Lu Ming, they did not probe further. They only needed to follow Xiao Wan's orders. Rumble. Huge warships appeared in the sky. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan each took a warship and flew in 2 different directions. Lu Ming's army's first target was the Mountain Piercing Sect. Enemy attack. When they were close to the Mountain Piercing Sect, a loud roar came from within. Countless rays of light shone from within the Mountain Piercing Sect. The sect protection array rose. Auras burst out and figures flickered as they appeared in front of the Mountain Piercing Sect. Rumble. Lu Ming's warship stopped a few thousand miles away from the Mountain Piercing Sect. Lu Ming stepped out of the warship first. Behind him was a large army that followed Lu Ming. They stepped out of the warship and appeared in front of the mountain-piercing sect. Who is it? An angry roar came from within the mountain-piercing sect. A terrifying aura shot up into the sky and suppressed everything within a few thousand miles. A tall figure that was covered in yellow light appeared at the front of the mountain-piercing sect. An emperor. Obviously, this was the emperor of the mountain-piercing sect. Peng! Peng! Chu Luo and Mo Yi stepped out and came to the front. They released their emperor's aura and pressed forward. Emperors, 2 emperors. Countless people in the mountain-piercing sect exclaimed in shock. Chapter 1181. Chu Luo, it's you. Why did you bring people to my mount-piercing sect? The emperor of the mount-piercing sect looked at Chu Luo and shouted. Emperor of Wanshan, I advise you to lead the entire mount-piercing sect and surrender. Otherwise, today, the mount-piercing sect will be destroyed. Chu Luo said coldly. Ha, surrender. Don't even think about it. Chu Luo, I knew that you have wild ambitions. It's useless even if you find helpers. Today, we'll fight to the death. The emperor of Wanshan laughed mockingly. If you don't surrender, then let's fight. As soon as Chu Luo's voice fell, the aura on his body burst out violently and became even more terrifying. Boom! On the side, Mo Yi also erupted. The pressure of the emperor was vast and mighty. Demonic chi formed a pillar of demonic chi that soared into the sky. Boom! Boom! Mo Yi and Chu Luo stepped forward at the same time. Heaven and earth trembled under their feet. 2 terrifying demonic lights bombarded the mount-piercing sect. 2 earth-shattering explosions were heard. The entire mount-piercing sect shook violently as if there was a magnitude 10 earthquake. The mount-piercing sect's protective formation trembled violently. Under the bombardment of the 2 demon emperors, it could not resist and collapsed with a loud bang. In the northern plains, there were no cultivators who were proficient in the path of inscriptions. Therefore, the protective formation was not very strong. Kill! As soon as the protective formation was broken, the emperor of Wanshan roared and rushed into the sky. Countless mountains appeared around his body. There seemed to be hundreds of them. This was the emperor of Wanshan's domain, called the Wanshan domain. Wanshan, since you're courting death, I'll send you on your way. Chu Luo shouted coldly. Endless black demonic light spread out around his body. Demonic domain. Similarly, Mo Yi also released his demonic domain and attacked the emperor of Wanshan together with Chu Luo. The 3 emperors immediately engaged in a fierce battle in the sky. In the sky, there was a terrifying fluctuation. This Chu Luo is so strong. He's slightly stronger than Mo Yi. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Chu Luo's combat strength was slightly stronger than Mo Yi's. Joining forces with Mo Yi, it didn't take many moves to gain the upper hand. Kill! At this moment, Lu Ming waved his hand and the army set off, charging toward the Chuan Shan sect. Kill! The disciples of the mountain-piercing sect also charged out. The 2 sides fought fiercely. Whoosh! Beside Lu Ming, a fiery red light shot out rapidly. It was Yan Kuangtu. He had his eyes on one of the Supremes. It was a 3-meter-tall man with bulging muscles all over his body. His whole body was emitting an earthy yellow light. He was also staring at Yan Kuangtu. Kill! The other party shouted as a broad axe appeared in his hand and chopped towards Yan Kuangtu. Yan Kuangtu was covered in flames as he punched out. Boom! The flaming fist accurately landed on the axe. The axe shook violently, and the opponent's tall and burly figure also shook violently. Then, he was forced to retreat. Kill! Yan Kuangtu's combat strength was invincible. Terrifying flames spread out towards Lu Ming, and his fists kept bombarding. The other party tried his best to fend off Zhang Xian's attacks, but with every move he made, he would be forced back several steps. After a few moves, the other party's body jolted violently, and a mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. There was a look of horror in his eyes. They were both supremes, but how could Yan Kuangtu's combat strength be so strong? Explode! He shouted and performed bloodline fusion, but what awaited him was Yan Kuangtu's storm-like attacks. Yan Kuangtu transformed into a three-legged golden crow. With a flap of his wings, he instantly appeared in front of the other party. He grabbed with his claws and directly broke the other party's bloodline fusion. Then, his wings were like a flaming heavenly blade, cutting the other party's body in half. Even the spirit deity couldn't escape. A supreme being was killed just like that, shocking everyone in the surroundings. Kill! Then, Yan Kuangtu fixed his eyes on another supreme being and attacked him. Join forces, let's join forces. The Supremes shouted and joined forces with the other Supremes to fight against Yan Kuangtu, but they were still at a disadvantage. A few years ago, in the Battle of Nine Dragons City, Yan Kuangtu was able to fight against 3 Supremes alone. Now, a few years had passed. Although Yan Kuangtu hadn't broken through to the Emperor realm, he had taken another step forward. His combat strength was stronger than back then, and he could easily suppress 2 Supremes. In the end, another Supremes joined the battlefield and barely stopped Yan Kuangtu. What a powerful Supremes! The Supremes who followed the myriad demons Abyss and demonic God Valley were secretly shocked when they saw this scene. They were shocked by Yan Kuangtu's strength and knew that the force behind Lu Ming should not be underestimated. With Yan Kuangtu fighting against several Supremes alone, the others had a much easier time. Originally, Lu Ming's side had more Supremes than the Mountain Crossing sect. In this way, it was completely one-sided. Earth Essence. This Mountain Crossing sect has a lot of people who practice Earth Essence and other essences. Lu Ming's eyes began to shine. Unlike Cold Blood Hall, the Mountain Crossing sect's essence was very simple. Although the Mountain Crossing sect's essence was mainly Mountain Essence and Earth Essence, there were also many who practiced other essences. Concept of fire, concept of water, concept of thunder, concept of wind. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His figure dashed out like a flickering light and a passing shadow. He appeared beside the powerful figures of the Pangshan sect who had died in the battle. His devouring power erupted, devouring the intense, runes, and blood essence of the other party. Refine, refine for me. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically refined it. At the same time, his figure flickered and rushed to other places. Every time he devoured, he would sense the other party's essence. Only when he felt that the other party's essence was compatible with his did he begin to devour. As he devoured and refined the 9 dragons' bloodline, Lu Ming's 5 essences began to slowly improve. The corpse of a supreme. Finally, Lu Ming came to the corpse of a supreme. It was the supreme who had been killed by Yan Kuangtu. Lu Ming took out a jade bottle and guided it with his genuine vitality. 9 drops of blood essence, which were like bright red gems, were drawn out and stored in the jade bottle. I need to get more supreme blood essence. Lu Ming's eyes darted around. It was too difficult for him to upgrade his bloodline now. Previously, he had refined the blood essence of a supreme being, but his 9 dragons' bloodline had not been upgraded. It was still at level 8 of the divine level. However, Lu Ming had a feeling that after refining the blood essence of a supreme being, his bloodline was improving and was approaching level 9 of the divine level. This meant that the supreme blood essence was still very useful. It was just that he needed more of it. As long as there was enough supreme blood essence, his bloodline would improve sooner or later. Boom! Suddenly, the mountain rocks under Lu Ming's feet shook, and a stone spear condensed. The sharp spear pierced out from under Lu Ming's feet and pierced towards Lu Ming's throat. Sneak attack! Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He did not dodge. His neck trembled slightly, and 5 colored essences surrounded him. He executed the hell-suppressing heaven skill, and a powerful force erupted. Bang! The stone spear directly collapsed. Lu Ming had already cultivated the hell-suppressing heaven skill to the point that every part of his body could explode with attacks. Even his throat could explode with powerful attacks. Chapter 1182. Not far away, a powerhouse from the mountain-piercing sect was shocked. Kill! Lu Ming's killing intent exploded as he took a step forward and charged towards the powerhouse. This person was at the 7th level of the spirit god realm. However, he was defeated by Lu Ming in less than 2 moves. Lu Ming broke his defense and pierced his heart with 1 move. Killed in 1 blow. After killing this person, Lu Ming continued to look for targets to devour. The battle was extremely intense, and the powerhouses of the mountain-piercing sect fell like raindrops. Lu Ming devoured while putting away the storage rings. As time passed, Lu Ming devoured the concept of heaven and earth of dozens of spirit god realm powerhouses. Enough, enough. Spirit god realm powerhouses have very strong self-awareness. I've absorbed too much. Even if I refine it, it will be very impure and affect my foundation. I need time to refine it. Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he retreated out of the battlefield and returned to the warship. Xian Yanqing was not on the warship, but fighting outside to temper himself. Lu Ming asked Meng Chong and Jiang Ke to protect Xian Yanqing secretly in case anything happened to Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming stood on the warship, refining the concept runes that he devoured while observing the battle. In the sky, the Emperor of Wanshan was completely suppressed by Chu Luo and Mo Yi. He was already injured, and his defeat was certain. It was the same for the battlefield below the Emperor realm. The mountain-piercing sect was powerless to reverse the situation. Wanshan, surrender. Don't make a meaningless struggle. Chu Luo said coldly. Don't even think about it. Unless you kill me today, you won't have an easy time. The Emperor of Wanshan roared with cold killing intent. He began to attack, intending to escape. As long as he escaped, he would launch a crazy revenge in the future. The crazy revenge of an emperor was terrifying. As long as the emperor was not here, no one was his match. Then I'll kill you today. Chu Luo revealed strong killing intent, and so did Mo Yi. They used all their strength to kill the Emperor of Wanshan. Clang! At this moment, below, a fiery red light bloomed, and the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Yan Kuangtu was fighting the 3 Supremes. At this moment, the Emperor's spirit pagoda appeared above Yan Kuangtu's head. It vibrated gently, and a circle of fire spread out. The 3 Supremes of the mountain-piercing sect were hit by the Emperor's spirit pagoda. Emperor's spirit weapon. One of the Supremes roared in horror. Kill! Yan Kuangtu took out the Emperor's spirit pagoda, and his battle prowess was raised to a terrifying level. He took a step forward, and the Emperor's spirit pagoda enlarged, suppressing one of the Supremes. No! The sovereign was locked down by the power of the Emperor's spirit pagoda. It was difficult for him to escape, and he could only passively resist. Bang! Under the suppression of the Emperor's spirit pagoda, that supreme being was unable to resist at all. He was smashed into pieces and died on the spot. After killing one utmost exalted, Yan Kuangtu charged towards another utmost exalted. The expressions of the remaining 2 supreme beings changed greatly. They didn't dare to fight, frantically retreating. Yan Kuangtu stared at one of them and chased relentlessly. In the end, he caught up and killed him. Supreme blood essence. Lu Ming's body moved again. He rushed toward the corpse of the Supremes to collect the supreme blood essence. Of course, he wouldn't let go of the Supreme's storage ring. He planned to give it to Yan Kuangtu after collecting it. Lu Ming collected the blood essence of the 2 Supremes killed by Yan Kuangtu. In addition, Lu Ming also collected the blood essence of one of the Supremes killed by others. Lu Ming was the commander. When the people on his side saw this, they naturally wouldn't stop him. As for the mountain-piercing sect, they couldn't even take care of themselves. Naturally, no one stopped Lu Ming. Devour a part of the true yuan. Lu Ming used his devouring power to devour the true yuan of several 8th and 9th layer spirit god experts. He then returned to the warship and continued to refine it. Since his intent realm was increasing, his cultivation would naturally increase as well. As the energy was refined and turned into true yuan, Lu Ming began to break through to the 5th layer spirit god realm. Boom! Boom! True yuan surged, stirring up thousands of waves as it constantly attacked the bottleneck. At this time, the battle between the emperors in the sky was even more intense. The Emperor of Myriad Mountains was desperately trying to escape. Chu Luo and Mo Yi attacked with all their strength. At this time, the Emperor of Myriad Mountains was severely injured. His body was almost torn apart, and blood was seeping out of his body. You can't kill me. Explode. The Emperor of Myriad Mountains' eyes were filled with madness. His Myriad Mountains domain erupted, and his spirit body shone. He roared. His body was really about to split apart, and at the same time, his domain exploded crazily. A terrifying power swept towards Chu Luo and Mo Yi. This lunatic. Chu Luo and Mo Yi shouted angrily. The Emperor of Myriad Mountains was using a self-destructive method to block them. He wanted to buy time for himself to escape. It was too difficult to kill an emperor who was desperately trying to escape. Whoosh! After blocking Chu Luo and Mo Yi, the Emperor of Myriad Mountains took the opportunity to escape. But at this time, a fiery red giant pagoda appeared in the sky and suppressed the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. It was Yan Kuangtu. At the critical moment, he controlled the Emperor's spirit pagoda and rushed towards the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. Emperor's spirit weapon, damn it! The Emperor of Myriad Mountains roared, and his hands bombarded the Emperor's spirit pagoda. The Emperor's spirit pagoda shook violently, and Yan Kuangtu's body was also pushed back. But in the end, he managed to block the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. Yan Kuangtu's cultivation was already very close to the martial royal realm. With the addition of the Emperor's spirit weapon, his combat strength could barely contend with an emperor. With this block, Chu Luo and Mo Yi had arrived. Myriad Mountains, your end is already decided. Chu Luo shouted and joined forces with Mo Yi. A terrifying attack burst out and shrouded the Emperor of Myriad Mountains. Clang! Yan Kuangtu controlled the Emperor's spirit pagoda and attacked the Emperor of Myriad Mountains again. The seriously injured Emperor of Myriad Mountains was besieged by the 3 experts and could no longer escape. Royal blood spilled in the sky. In the end, the Emperor of Myriad Mountains was killed by the 3 experts and fell in the sky above the Chuan Shan sect. An emperor of a generation had fallen just like that. At the sight of this, Lu Ming's heart still trembled. So what if he was an emperor? So what if he dominated the divine wilderness continent? Didn't he still fall? This was the divine wilderness continent. Overseas, the larger continents, and even the center of the primordial realm. The primordial continent was more dangerous, and there were more experts. The cultivation of an emperor could also fall and not be able to protect himself. Being an emperor is not my end. I need to climb to a higher realm. Otherwise, I can't even protect myself, let alone my family. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes were bright. His heart and vision were higher. In the past, his goal was to break through to the Emperor realm and kill De. But now, his goal was not limited to the Emperor realm. His goal was to become a saint above the Emperor realm, or rather, a saint above the saint realm. Perhaps, only by reaching a cultivation level that could dominate the primordial realm could he truly control his own fate and protect his family. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The Emperor is dead. The ancestor has fallen. Chapter 1183. The 10,000 Mountain Sovereign is dead. Why aren't you surrendering? Chu Luo stood high in the sky, looking down. His voice spread to every corner of the sect. The vast sovereign's aura covered the entire sect, making it hard for people to breathe. I surrender. I'm willing to surrender. I surrender too. With the sovereign killed, many disciples and experts of the mountain-piercing sect no longer had the courage to fight and surrendered. You traitors, have you forgotten the sovereign's kindness to you? There were also some who were more stubborn and would rather die than surrender. Naturally, they were killed on the spot. This was war, it was life or death. No one would be soft-hearted. Seeing this, more people of the mountain-piercing sect surrendered. Next, the battlefield was cleaned up and the aftermath was arranged. Lu Ming did not participate. He sat cross-legged on the warship, wholeheartedly refining the concept runes and refining the energy to break through. Boom! Not long after, a powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body and rushed into the sky, attracting many people's attention. He broke through. Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and other experts looked at Lu Ming with shock in their eyes. He only wandered around the battlefield once and his cultivation actually broke through. Moreover, at such a young age, he actually broke through to the 5th level of the spirit god realm. It was really shocking. Lu Ming's aura erupted and in the next moment, it was restrained. However, Lu Ming did not end his cultivation. Instead, he continued to refine the concept runes that he devoured. He had devoured dozens of concept runes from experts. At the very least, they were all above the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Their comprehension of the concept of heaven and earth was very profound. Lu Ming had to spend a lot of effort to refine them. Half an hour later, the battlefield was cleaned up. The army gathered and prepared to fight the next force, the 100-Beast tribe. Speed was crucial in war. They had to set off immediately. At this time, Lu Ming finished refining and got up to the front of the army. Set off for the 100-Beast tribe. Lu Ming ordered. The army reboarded the warship and set off for the 100-Beast tribe. As for the people who surrendered, they were engraved with a formation in their sea of consciousness to follow them to fight the 100-Beast tribe. Only a few people were left to guard the mountain-piercing sect headquarters. The warship tore through the air, flying towards the 100-Beast tribe at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in one of the warship's room, continuing to refine the concept runes. In the blink of an eye, half a day. The 100-Beast tribe, Lu Ming had finally refined the concept runes he had devoured. Was the concept of wind, concept of fire, concept of thunder, and concept of water have all reached greater mastery of the 4th level. The concept of earth has also reached the peak of lesser mastery of the 4th level. My cultivation has risen to the 5th level of the spirit god realm as well. The improvement this time is really great. However, it's too fast, so it's filled with impurities, causing my foundation to be unstable. I won't be able to continue devouring and improving in a short period of time. Lu Ming got up, walked out of the room, and came to the deck of the warship, looking into the distance. In front of him, thousands of miles away, countless spires appeared. These spires were all made of stone, and they were like sharp spikes that stood tall on the boundless grassland. This was the 100-Beast tribe. It could be said to be the most powerful tribe in the northern plains, an ancient tribe with an incomparably long history. Each of the spires was glowing, and the light from each spires gathered together to form a large formation, enveloping the 100-Beast tribe. Countless figures appeared in the 100-Beast tribe. Some rode on battle beasts, hovering in the air, while others stood on the ground, forming a battle formation. Regardless of gender, they were all strong and burly, full of valiant aura. Obviously, the 100-Beast tribe had received the news of the battle at the mountain-piercing sect and had made preparations in advance. The warship stopped, and Lu Ming and the others flew out, stopping in front of the 100-Beast tribe. Boom! Boom! Two terrifying auras erupted. Chu Luo and Mo Yi stepped out, and the aura of an emperor spread toward the 100-beast tribe. At this time, another aura rose from the 100-beast tribe, and a burly middle-aged man stepped out, floating in the air, exuding a shocking aura. There was no doubt that he was an emperor, the leader of the 100-beast tribe, the barbarian emperor. Chu Luo, it's really you, but I don't think your appetite is that big. First, you destroyed the mountain-piercing sect, and now, you came to my 100-beast tribe. It seems that you're one of the chaotic Sky Divine Emperor's men. The barbarian emperor said. Previously, Xiao Wan had led his army to attack other forces, so the barbarian emperor obviously knew their background. Barbarian emperor, since you already know, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, you'll end up like the mountain-piercing sect. Chu Luo said coldly. Ha, my 100-beast tribe has a long history, and there has never been a case of surrendering before a battle. If you want to attack, then let's fight. The barbarian emperor laughed loudly, incomparably domineering. After he finished speaking, a yellow rod appeared above the barbarian emperor's head. It floated above the barbarian emperor's head and rapidly grew in size, emitting an extremely shocking fluctuation. An emperor's spiritual weapon, you also have an emperor's spiritual weapon. Chu Luo and Mo Yi exclaimed at the same time, and their eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Back in the Saint Mansion's secret territory, there were a total of 4 emperor's spiritual weapons. He had obtained one, and Yang Patian, Tuoba Shi, and Monk Wuliang had each obtained one. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the area, and indeed, he saw Tuoba Shi in front of the 100-beast tribe. Tuoba Shi came from the 100-beast tribe, and he must have obtained this emperor's spiritual weapon from the Saint Mansion's secret territory. Let's fight, even if my 100-beast tribe loses, don't think that you'll have an easy time. The barbarian emperor's eyes were filled with malice. Chu Luo and Mo Yi's faces were solemn. The barbarian emperor's combat strength was already very strong, and he was even slightly stronger than Chu Luo. Coupled with the emperor's spiritual weapon, his combat strength was even stronger. Even if the two of them joined forces, they might not be able to win. Even if they joined forces with Yan Kuangtu, whose combat strength was barely at the emperor realm, it was hard to say. Even if they could win, if the barbarian emperor fought to the death, it was not impossible to drag one of them down with him. Even if they could win this battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. However, at this point, they had no choice but to fight. Barbarian emperor, since you're so stubborn, we can only fight and destroy your 100-beast tribe. Chu Luo spoke and stepped out, his battle intent even stronger. Wait a minute. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly spoke. Chu Luo frowned and glanced at Lu Ming with a trace of displeasure in his eyes, but when he thought of Xiao Wan's words, he held it in and stopped in his tracks. Lu Ming stepped out and came to the front. Most of the 100-beast tribe's people's eyes fell on Lu Ming. They were secretly surprised, not knowing where Lu Ming came from to be able to make an Emperor Realm expert obey his orders. Wait a minute, made an Emperor Realm expert stop in his tracks. Lu Ming, it's him. Chapter 1184. What? He's Lu Ming. So he's Lu Ming, the one who defeated all the elites in the Middle Continent's sacred city. Everyone in the 100-beast tribe was shocked by Tuoba Shi's words. Back then, during the million-year sacrificial ceremony of the ancient sage dynasty in the sacred city, Lu Ming had consecutively defeated giant-level geniuses. He was already famous in the divine wilderness continent and was regarded as an unparalleled genius, second only to Long Chen. They didn't expect to see Lu Ming here. At this moment, not only Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the rest, but even the people from the 100-beast tribe were curious. They did not know why Lu Ming had stopped Chu Luo. Lu Ming glanced at the 100-beast tribe and looked at the barbaric emperor. He said in a clear voice, the 100-beast tribe has a long history. Wouldn't it be a pity if it were to be destroyed? Barbaric emperor, why don't we make a bet? A bet? Many people were surprised. A bet? How? You want to make a bet with me? What are we betting on? How? The barbaric emperor asked. Let's bet on the issue between us and the 100-beast tribe. This bet, if I win, the 100-beast tribe will surrender unconditionally. If I lose, I will bring my people and leave immediately. From now on, I will never set foot in the territory of the 100-beast tribe. Lu Ming said. Everyone was shocked by his words. It was a huge bet on the fate of the 100-beast tribe. How should we bet? The barbaric emperor asked again. It's simple. Tuoba Shur is a peerless elite with great combat strength. Let's bet on my battle with Tuoba Shur, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, let's not bet. I know you're powerful and I'm no match for you. Before Lu Ming could finish, Tuoba Shur interrupted Lu Ming. That's right. Lu Ming, I can see that your cultivation has reached the level 5 spirit god realm. Tuoba Shur is no match for you. The barbaric emperor said. Those words caused the 100-beast tribe and Tuoba Shur to reveal astonished expressions. Especially Tuoba Shur, he was very clearly aware that Lu Ming was only at the 3rd level of the spirit god realm when they were in the holy city. How long had it been since then, yet Lu Ming had entered the 5th level of the spirit god realm. This was too terrifying and too abnormal. Listen to me first. What I mean is that I will suppress my cultivation level to the same level as Tuoba Shur's. Tuoba Shur's current cultivation level should be at the peak of the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. I will also suppress my cultivation level to the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, I will only bet on one move. I will defeat Tuoba Shur in one move. If I can't defeat Tuoba Shur in one move, I will lose the battle. Lu Ming said. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. Defeating Tuoba Shur in one move at the same level? How could this be? What? You suppressed your cultivation to the 3rd level of the spirit god realm and defeated me in one move? Tuoba Shur widened his eyes and glared at Lu Ming in anger. This was an insult to him. That's right. Tuoba Shur, do you dare? Lu Ming said. Why wouldn't I dare? Lu Ming, I agree to fight with you. No one at the same level as me can defeat me in one move. Tuoba Shur strode forward with anger in his eyes as he glared at Lu Ming. Yes, Tuoba Shur didn't believe that there was anyone at the same level as him who could defeat him in one move. This was impossible. Long Chen was able to defeat him in one move during the Battle of the Holy City because Long Chen's cultivation base was higher than his. At that time, Tuoba Shur had just reached the 3rd level of the spirit god realm, while Long Chen was definitely at the 4th level of the spirit god realm or even stronger. He was also very clear about Lu Ming's strength. When Lu Ming fought Ming Zi, it was quite difficult for him. He had to exchange many moves to defeat Ming Zi. Tuoba Shur's strength wasn't weaker than Yang Potion's. Yang Patian was ranked 3rd among the 5 giants of the central continent. Even if he was weaker than Ming Zi, it was only by a little. Now, Tuoba Shur was even stronger. Moreover, he had recently made a breakthrough in one of his secret techniques, which leaned towards defense. Tuoba Shur was originally leaning towards defense. Even Yang Potion's space intent couldn't break through his defense. Now that his defense was even stronger, his confidence was greatly boosted. He thought that he could suppress Yang Patian. Therefore, he didn't fear Lu Ming in a battle of the same level. Now, Lu Ming actually said that he could defeat him in one move. This was an insult to him, which made him furious. Old ancestor, let him fight with me. Let's bet on this. I will definitely make them retreat. Tuoba Shur looked at the barbaric emperor. The barbaric emperor frowned slightly. He couldn't figure out Lu Ming's strength. However, he had the same thoughts as Tuoba Shur. Tuoba Shur's talent was extremely rare in the history of the 100-beast tribe. He was much stronger than the barbaric emperor when he was young. He also didn't believe that Lu Ming could defeat Tuoba Shi in one move at the same level. Alright, I'll bet with you in this battle, the barbaric emperor said after pondering for a moment. Alright, barbaric emperor, let's make a blood oath. After all, this matter is of great importance. It won't be good if one side goes back on their word, Lu Ming said. However, I want to know if you can make the decision. If you agree and they go back on their word, what will you do? The barbaric emperor looked at Chu Luo and Mo Yi. I'm the supreme commander. I have full authority to make the decision, Lu Ming said. His words shocked the barbaric emperor and the others. They found it hard to believe that Lu Ming was the supreme commander, leading an army that included the emperor realm experts. Commander, please think thrice. Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the others spoke to Lu Ming through voice transmission. They had heard of Tuoba Shi's name, but they found it hard to believe that Lu Ming could defeat Tuoba Shi in one move at the same level. There's no need to say more. I have my own plans. Lu Ming waved his hand, interrupting Chu Luo and the others. Seeing this, the barbaric emperor was relieved and made a blood oath with Lu Ming. If Lu Ming was defeated, the army would withdraw. If Lu Ming won, the 100 Beast tribe would surrender unconditionally. Patriarch, if Lu Ming really wins, what should we do? A venerable from the 100 Beast tribe asked the barbaric emperor worriedly through voice transmission. I've also considered this matter. Now that the world is in chaos, the major forces are at war with each other. No force can stay out of this and will be implicated. The war will come sooner or later. If we don't handle it well, our tribe will be annihilated. If Lu Ming can really defeat Tuoba Shi in one move, it will prove that he is a heaven-defying talent. His future will be limitless. If he doesn't die, there's a high possibility that he will dominate the divine wilderness in the future. It might not be a bad choice for us to submit to him. The barbarian emperor secretly transmitted his voice to that paragon, telling him what he was thinking. As the barbaric emperor, he had lived for a long time. Naturally, he wouldn't agree to the bet with Lu Ming on a whim. He had thought it through carefully. In fact, Lu Ming had also considered this point. His current cultivation was still weak. If he relied on his cultivation, he wouldn't be able to intimidate the crowd. Therefore, he had to show his advantage. His advantage was his talent and his age. He was still young, in the golden age of a cultivator. His future was limitless. Only by displaying his astonishing talent would these big shots be intimidated and be willing to submit to him. Just like how Xiao Wan agreed to form an alliance with him because of this point. Lu Ming, let's fight. Chapter 1185. Be careful, Lu Ming said as his aura rose. When Lu Ming's aura rose to the third-level spirit god realm, it stopped. He suppressed his cultivation to the third-level spirit god realm, the same realm as Tuoba Shi. Roar! Roar! Inside Lu Ming's body, the sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. Waves of dragon power erupted one after another. The surface of Lu Ming's skin was suffused with a purple glow. Lu Ming's muscles bulged and were filled with explosive power. Tuoba Shi's eyes turned serious. He didn't dare to delay and raised his cultivation to the maximum. At the same time, a bloodline appeared above his head. Tuoba Shi's bloodline was a rock. To be precise, it was a huge rock that was as big as a mountain. It was crystal clear like a huge diamond. Tuoba Shi performed the bloodline fusion and turned into a huge rock. His voice sounded, Lu Ming, come on. His voice was filled with confidence. At this moment, he performed the bloodline fusion. Among his peers, he was confident that no one could beat him in terms of defense. He didn't believe that Lu Ming could defeat him in a single move. Ha, he's going to win. Lu Ming can't break through Tuoba Shi's defense. He's too confident. Overconfidence is arrogance. The people of the 100-Beast tribe were overjoyed. Fight! The third bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. In an instant, endless killing intent surged from Lu Ming's body. A wisp of power from the third bloodline entered Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body was covered in a layer of bloody light. As Lu Ming's cultivation increased, the power he borrowed from the third bloodline also increased and became stronger. Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch at Tuobashir. In this punch, one could vaguely see the shadow of the suppressing prison monument on his fist. It emitted an aura that could suppress the heavens. At his spine, the suppressing prison monument trembled slightly, increasing the power of the suppressing prison skill to the maximum. This, Lu Ming's punch caused the 100-Beast tribe's experts' expressions to completely change. Lu Ming's punch was too terrifying, too shocking. Block it. Tuobashir also felt the terrifying power of this fist. Before the fist even arrived, the powerful pressure already made his heart tremble. The blood vessels he transformed into trembled, and a layer of light appeared. His defensive power became even stronger. Boom! Finally, Lu Ming's fist landed on Tuobashir's bloodline. The light screen shook violently and then broke. The fist landed on Tuobashir's bloodline. An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the space shattered like a spider web. Kacha! Compared to Tuobashir's bloodline, Lu Ming's fist was very small. However, Tuobashir's bloodline emitted a cracking sound at the place where his fist struck. A huge diamond-like rock revealed a crack. In an instant, the crack expanded rapidly and eventually exploded with a loud bang. Tuobashir's body was revealed from the rubble. His face was pale as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. His body flew backwards like a cannonball and landed on the ground in an arc boom. Tuobashir smashed into the ground, and it took him a long time to get up. The scene was dead silent. He won. Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the others muttered to themselves. Their eyes were filled with shock. Mo Yi spent most of his time cultivating in the myriad demon abyss, so he didn't know much about the geniuses in the outside world. However, Tuobashir's bloodline just now was a 9th-grade divine realm bloodline. It was even more talented than him when he was young. With such amazing talent, he was defeated by Lu Ming in one move. Moreover, they were at the same grade. This shocked him greatly. Defeated? How can this be? The 100-Beast tribe members were also shocked by this scene. They couldn't say a word for a long time. The peerless genius of the 100-Beast tribe, a genius that only appeared once in 100,000 years. He was regarded as the future genius of the 100-Beast tribe. However, he was defeated in one move by someone at the same grade. This was hard for them to accept. They looked at Lu Ming and Tuobashir in a daze, as if they were dreaming. I lost. Tuobashir got up and said with difficulty. A dejected look appeared in his eyes. He was defeated by Lu Ming in one move. It was hard for someone as arrogant as him to accept this fact. At the same time, he was also extremely shocked. Compared to the Battle of the Sacred City, Lu Ming had become much stronger. Now, was Long Chen, who was known as the top expert in the world, still a match for Lu Ming? Tuobashir wasn't the only one who was shocked. The barbarian emperor was also shocked. This young man is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The barbarian emperor's eyes flickered and a sentence kept repeating in his heart. Barbarian emperor, I have won. Shouldn't you fulfill your promise? Lu Ming looked at the barbarian emperor. Don't worry. The people of the 100-Beast tribe are true to their words. Since you have won, the 100-Beast tribe will surrender. The barbarian emperor said. His voice reverberated throughout the place. The people of the 100-Beast tribe sighed, but no one said a word. Yes, the people of the 100-Beast tribe were true to their words. Moreover, they also understood that if they were to fight today, the 100-Beast tribe wouldn't be able to escape destruction, just like the mountain-piercing sect. However, at this time, the barbarian emperor's tone changed. His gaze swept across Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the others before landing on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, the 100-beast tribe will only surrender to you and no one else. Chu Luo and Mo Yi's faces changed when they heard this. The barbarian emperor's meaning was clear. He only wanted to surrender to Lu Ming and no one else, not Xiao Wan. Alright, I will be the commander-in-chief. Naturally, you will surrender to me. Lu Ming grinned. This was the result he wanted. The 100-beast tribe would only be considered as his force if they surrendered to him. In the future, they would definitely stand on his side. This way, his strength would skyrocket and he would be able to stand on equal footing with Xiao Wan. Brother Tuoba, I apologize for offending you just now. Lu Ming cupped his fists at Tuoba Shi. I am ashamed of my inferiority to Brother Lu's talent. Tuoba Shi sighed and shook his head. However, there was admiration in his eyes. Next, the 100-beast tribe retracted the formation and held a ceremony to surrender to Lu Ming. Not long after, Lu Ming received news that Xiao Wan's side had been successfully conquered. On Xiao Wan's side, one of the overlords was destroyed while the other surrendered. One of the overlords did not surrender and its emperor was personally killed by Xiao Wan. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Xiao Wan's combat strength was truly shocking. He could kill an emperor alone and this was before he had fully recovered. He wondered how powerful he would be when he recovered to his peak. At this point, the 5 overlords of the northern plains were either destroyed or surrendered. Not to mention the other smaller forces, they all surrendered. The northern plains was considered unified. A few days later, the news of the unification of the northern plains spread throughout the divine wilderness continent. Although the heroes of the middle continent were shocked, they had no time to care about other things. The war in the middle continent was even more intense. The major forces could not even take care of themselves. The Imperial Xia family and the heaven-guarding divine army were fiercely fighting in the Earth's core sea in the middle of the middle continent. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. The remaining overlord forces that did not participate in the alliance were also fighting each other. Chapter 1186. In a secret chamber in the demonic god valley, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and took out a jade bottle. There were 9 drops of blood essence that looked like blood diamonds in the jade bottle. This was the sovereign's blood essence. 7 days had passed since the 100-beast tribe surrendered. In these 7 days, most of the arrangements had been made. Moreover, the demonic aura in the demon god valley was abundant, which was beneficial to Xian Yanqing's cultivation. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing came to the demon god valley to oversee it while Xiao Wan led a group of people to oversee the 100-beast tribe. Moreover, Lu Ming had already connected the Talisman Puppet Sect's trans-territory transportation array with the transportation arrays of the Northern Plains major forces. Now, the Talisman Puppet Sect could travel freely to the Northern Plains. In these few days, many people from the Talisman Puppet Sect had been sent to the Northern Plains to temper themselves. After arranging everything, Lu Ming planned to go into seclusion. The 9 Dragons bloodline appeared and sucked a drop of Sovereign's blood essence into his mouth before he started refining it. It was much easier to devour a drop of Sovereign's blood essence, unlike the last time when the 9 Dragons bloodline almost exploded. A few hours later, a drop of Sovereign's blood essence was refined and Lu Ming continued to devour another drop. Drop after drop, all 9 drops of blood essence were refined in less than 2 days. The 9 Dragons bloodline still hasn't leveled up. Lu Ming was speechless. In total, he had refined the blood essence of 2 supreme beings, as well as some perfected spirit gods, 9th-level spirit gods, and 8th-level spirit gods. However, his 9 Dragons bloodline still did not improve. The difficulty of leveling up a 9th-grade High God Realm bloodline was too shocking. The 8 golden chakras around the 9 Dragons bloodline shone brightly. Lu Ming could feel that he was getting closer and closer to the 9th-grade High God Realm bloodline. I don't believe it. Continue. Lu Ming took out another jade bottle that contained 9 drops of Sovereign's blood essence. Lu Ming continued to refine the blood essence. Inside the 100 Beast Tribe's tallest stone tower, Xiao Wan sat at the top. Below him sat Chu Luo and Mo Yi, the 2 sovereigns. Devil Ancestor, Lu Ming's influence is growing bigger and bigger now. The barbarian emperor of the 100 Beast Tribes said that he would only submit to Lu Ming and obey Lu Ming's orders. Coupled with the Floating Mountain sect and the Talisman Puppet sect that have allied with him, the future is not good for us. Chu Luo spoke to Xiao Wan. That's right. Moreover, Lu Ming's talent is astonishing. He's too terrifying, and his progress is abnormally fast. I'm afraid that he'll be able to break through to become a ruler within 20 years. Once he becomes a ruler, I'm afraid that it'll affect your power and dignity, Devil Ancestor. Mo Yi added. With a smile on his face, Xiao Wan raised his wine cup and slowly drank. After Chu Luo and Mo Yi finished speaking, Xiao Wan smiled faintly and said, "Your vision is still too narrow, too short." Both Chu Luo and Mo Yi were stunned, not understanding what he meant. Mo Yi, both of you know that Lu Ming's talent is peerless. In the history of the divine desolate mainland, it's rarely seen since ancient times. With such talent, what do you think his future will be? As long as this child doesn't die, his future is unpredictable. Chu Luo pondered for a moment and said. Mo Yi nodded. That's right, Lu Ming's talent is far inferior to this emperor's when I was young. Moreover, the most terrifying thing about this child is that I can't see through him at all. This child's first bloodline is the 9 Dragons bloodline. Needless to say, it's one of the legendary top 10 battle beasts with boundless potential. But this child's second bloodline is even more shocking. It's the prison-suppressing steel. Perhaps you haven't heard of it, but I've vaguely seen a description of it in an ancient book overseas. Its origin seems to be shocking. As for this child's third bloodline, I can't see through it at all. However, I feel that it's unfathomable, as if there's an unimaginable power hidden within it that transcends common sense. That's why I formed an alliance with him. If he goes to Yuanlu in the future, there's a high possibility that he'll join one of those major sections. Then, he might recommend us to join one of those major sects in Yuanlu. Both of you are emperors. You should pursue a higher realm. You should set your sights further. Xiao Wan explained his thoughts in detail. It's actually so shocking. Demon ancestors' foresight is far beyond ours. After Chu Luo and Mo Yi heard this, their eyes were filled with shock. They only knew that Lu Ming's talent was peerless, but they didn't see as far as Xiao Wan. If they could join a major sect in Yuanlu, it would be a fatal temptation for them. The reason why the central continent was in chaos and war was because of a Heavenly King token, a token that allowed one to join a major force in Yuanlu, the Heavenly King Hall. Therefore, the higher Lu Ming's talent is, the better. If he can break through to the Emperor realm one day, why not let me support him wholeheartedly? In the future, both of you must listen to his orders wholeheartedly. Do you understand? Xiao Wan instructed. Yes, Demon Ancestor. Don't worry. Chu Luo and Mo Yi nodded. Chu Luo, return to the Demon God Valley and help Lu Ming guard the Demon God Valley. Xiao Wan instructed. Lu Ming naturally didn't know that such an episode had happened. For the next few days, Lu Ming had been refining the sovereign blood essence. Lu Ming had refined 2 more sovereign blood essences. However, his 9 dragons bloodline still hadn't leveled up. It remained at level 8 divine level. In total, Lu Ming had refined 4 sovereign blood essences. How much sovereign blood essences do I need to level up? Lu Ming sighed and was a little speechless. Now, he had refined all the sovereign blood essences in his hands. Forget it. I'll level it up slowly in the future. Lu Ming had no choice but to put down the matter of bloodline and began to polish his intent and condense his true origin. Lu Ming had improved too much after the battle at Chuan Shan sect. Especially his intent, all 5 of his intents had improved by a large margin. He needed time to polish them slowly and stabilize his foundation. Time passed quickly. 2 months passed in a flash. After spending 2 months, Lu Ming's foundation was finally completely stable. It was impregnable. In these 2 months, the outside world didn't change much. The central continent was still fighting and there were no signs of it stopping. On a mountain peak in the Demon God Valley, there was a stone table. Lu Ming and the barbaric emperor sat opposite each other. Lu Ming was asking the barbaric emperor for advice. The barbaric emperor also cultivated the earth intent. Of course, now that the barbaric emperor had transformed the earth intent into the earth domain, his understanding of the earth intent was naturally very profound. The barbaric emperor told Lu Ming everything he knew. Lu Ming was greatly enlightened and learned a lot. He felt that it wouldn't be long before the earth intent broke through. Thank you for your guidance, Senior Barbaric Emperor. Lu Ming raised his wine cup and toasted the barbaric emperor. Ha, General Lu, you're too polite. I'm surprised by your comprehension ability. The barbaric emperor laughed. Lu Ming was the commander-in-chief, so the barbaric emperor and the others addressed Lu Ming as Commander Lu. Although the 2 of them were very different in age, they got along very well. They drank while talking about the martial Tao. Swish. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.